Madi was
This platform is independent, and we wanted to work with everyone across the spectrum. So folks are invited to share what they know, and the viewers makes their choice, and we ask the questions and we give the guest the opportunity to answer.
This craziness, man, I do not care. Why am I so anti-establishment? Because of what I've seen the establishment do to people. That's why I cannot be pro-establishment.
Power is in the hands of the people. And it really did. What we all witnessed is the government, they knew that they're heading in the wrong direction. They knew Gambians are speaking in the same voice.
What law in the books that says the government has power to come out and go after folks' private citizens' properties and demolish them because somehow the government interest?
The only way that we can salvage our country is when everybody that gets their hand dirty. Don't sit there with your expertise and just to procrastinate everything that people say or pontificate, what everybody says or does. Let's get our hands dirty.
Good afternoon. Another Sunday for the people, by the people. Brother Marong, I missed you for the past couple of Sundays. And we had a special on Saturday. Unfortunately, you were not able to dial in from the hotel.
Where am I recording?
Hello? You there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So how you been? How was your trip?
It was good, man. Everyone had a great time. So
Ba nyanal nga ñu rek and nyanal the platform. You know how it
yes,
goes.
I did. I did. For you to have long life and good health and live forever and ever, man. But it was a great time. 5 days in Mecca and 7 days in Dubai. So
Wonderful.
all the kids had a great time.
Wow. That's nice. I'm sure the kids must have really loved it. I'm excited. Wow, that is really nice. And the wife as well, right? Jainaba.
Yes. And the wife, yes. The wife was part of it. It's a big part of it.
A big part of it. Yes, it is definitely. Yes, yeah. We had was it last Saturday? I had my good friend in Ibrahim Dibachako. We were finally, the last time I actually saw him was at a UDP Congress back in, this was prior to 2021 elections. I was there with Pata PJ, and that was the last time I saw him, and we went to Alaji Useinu's for lunch, And Ibrahim is a good friend, really. I mean, we have a lot in common. We are all political junkies, And I like his political temperament. I mean, and he seriously, he's a straight shooter. That one, I mean, he speaks honestly and frankly, and sometimes
whatever your definition of that is, it's subject to interpretation.
No, he calls it the way he sees it. I'm telling you. Now, he is no doubt a committed partisan, supporter of the United Democratic Party. That is him. That is what he lives for, really. I mean, I knew Ibrahim going all the way back for the past 15, 20 years. I mean, we were on Save the Gambia Democracy Project together. He always defended the party. But at the same time, too, he understands that there is always a need to reach across the aisle and talk and negotiate with people that you have. And he does it with civility. you'll be surprised. Ibrahim does not really come across and insult people or antagonize. That's not his way of doing things. But anyway, I think I saw Mar just
Yeah, but Paramos, before we get on that, man, while we were on break, you know, a good brother of mine passed away, Abdullahi Jame, the former
yes.
director of Gambia Civil Aviation.
Absolutely.
And also Keba Drame, from James Senegal too,
Keba Drame, James Senegal?
Yes. He was my classmate, and he's dead. He has a grandma named Yaawa. They're from James Senegal. Originally from Pirang. They live there.
Wow.
A great football player, man. I mean, he lives in Banjul all his life. Knew him, great folks. And so they both passed away. Abdullah passed away, and he's a good family friend and a big brother to me. So, a great guy, very respectful, humble, down to earth. And he did what he's supposed to do within the short period of his life, alleviate a lot of folks, sponsor a lot of students,
Right.
hired a lot of folks into civil aviation. So, I mean, even his burial procession, when I was watching it, a lot of young folks came in and talk about him and how he lifted folks from poverty, from what his life is all about, if you have something you share with folks, I mean, and I'm praying that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala give him Jannatul Firdaus and Keba as well,
Absolutely.
So it's been a while I didn't talk to him, but a great man and very calm, very respectful, down to earth. So he also passed away. So both of them are great friends, and we'll miss them dearly. And I pray that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala grant them Jannah. But it's this constant reminder, all of us, that death is inevitable, and what we could do within our short span. We try to do. We pray and do things, but also we try to do good things. Say good things about people. If you cannot say positive things about people, you need to be silent. Don't go out there tear people down, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's in the Quran. You can ask forgiveness between you and God, but I think a lot of people, we were crossing that sirata. It's just about between you and people. You need to safeguard that as much as possible. Do good, and good will follow you. That's been my principle. Stand on your principle, but be mindful. Don't hurt people. I think one of the key things in today's generation, in today's community, is this: your tongue. Your tongue would put you in hellfire, because you say stuff, you attest to stuff, to things that are not truthful, that are not tearing people's character and all that. And I think we just need to be mindful. But alhamdulillah, these two folks, great people. Musa, great. Abdullah is a wonderful, smart guy, very respectful guy, and we'll miss him. But again, he did what he can, and within this short period, and to those who he crossed paths with, there was good things that transpired between them. He has young kids. Don't forget those kids. Don't forget his wives that are out there. Do what you can to reach out to them. I think that is very, very fundamental in moving forward. That's what it is, Musa. And also, I think someone just said, yeah, President Buhari also passed away, the former president of Nigeria.
I mean, just want to join
his life, man.
Extend my condolences to both individuals. Abdullah Jame, I didn't really know him personally, but we all know that he was one of the presidential candidates back in 2021. That's when I really got to know him, and I had good things about him. Just like you said, a good man, I mean, has done a lot of things for people. Actually, I mean, when he first threw his head in the ring, most people said that he was really going to make a difference because of the kind of person he was. Very smart as well. But you know how politics is sometimes. But again,
And then he has a Musa. When you ask him, why he wants to jump in, what motivates him, man? I said, such a calm demeanor. I don't see you being a politician. But his response was very, very intriguing because first thing that he said the people that he come across, a lot of poverty, and also I think the biggest part of his decision was the depleting healthcare sector. That people are not able to get, even though the country is only 2.5 million.
Right.
People continue to struggle. He says, he even gave me an example saying back in the days, Gambia or every major surgeries, critical treatment health facility, Senegalese come to Gambia. Now is this other way around, and it looks like it's downhill from here. And he says, that breaks my heart, and then I wanted to make a difference. And I said, oh man, that's really, really interesting. That's what that's what he said.
So, of course, we're going to be talking about the Constitution. It hit another snag at the National Assembly last week. That is why we're bringing in Marr Nyang and also Madi Jorbateh. So we are going to be talking about that. Mad is already on, and I'm sure we will be joined very soon or later with Madi. But another that we are going to be launching every Sunday when we come for the people, by the people, is a war on corruption. I mean, we all talk about it a lot. And we've all just recently, I mean, when you watch, there's this talk about the $30 million, is it 30 million, I believe, of oil scandal. I mean, you can't tell the heads and tails of it. We all watch local government commissions. I mean, I've seen individuals that I thought they were long gone. I mean, Sarbel El Haj, this is someone, mover and shaker, businessman during the First Republic. I mean, the Second Republic. And here he is again. I saw him testifying to a commission. I mean, land being sold. I mean, the corruption is all over the place. So what we intend to do, just like on Coffee Time at one time, was it a few months ago, we had a whole week that people will talk about their experience as far as corruption is concerned. Corruption is so entrenched. I mean, this is not only about the government or even local government, but it's about us. And what we intend to do, like every week, our viewers, you text us your experience, and we will come out here and we will talk about it. We are going to be shaming people or shaming institutions. There isn't much we can do, but at least we can talk about it. Because there's no doubt that the corruption is much deeper and much more entrenched than just a government or local government. I mean, it's everywhere. And later on, I'm going to talk about my experience that I put out there yesterday on social media. I mean, dealing with private institutions like EcoBank, I thought for the life of me. And then dealing with the public institutions like NAWIC. And 2 years later, they're not able to sort out my problem. I am all over the place. And what's funny about it is, my nephew told me, and I refuse to listen to him. Again, we are going to talk about it. But anyway, let's talk about the Constitution. Brother Marr, it's good to see you again. We'll hear from you. We can't see you, but we can hear you, I believe.
Assalamualaikum, Musa and Sariang. Sorry, I'm driving, but I will be settling down in the next 5 minutes.
You know what? If you want, we can. If you wanna wait until you get there and then you dialed in again, then that's fine too as well. if it's okay. I don't know. However you wanna do it.
No, that's fine. I should be there in a jiffy. 5, 8 minutes, I should be there, and I will just join with my laptop. I just wanted to follow through what's been discussed, so I can catch up with you all when I dial in back.
No, don't worry about it. Just go ahead. We'll talk about another topic, the one that I just started talking about, and then when you get home and maybe 5-10 minutes, like you said, you can dial in. And then we will just start talking about the Constitution proper.
Awesome, that works.
Yeah. So so Brother Maron, I'm going to talk about this experience that I had. This was back in the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. And I know whether you, myself, and a lot of Gambians living here in the diaspora, when this change happened, we all wanted to kind of either start a business or something of that sort. And they stood out. Folks, they'll tell you the difficulty of trying to do business in the Gambia, especially from afar. And I've tried different things. Ended up losing money, either family members and things like that. So the easiest, basically, thing to do, it's like, and I'm sure most Gambians are involved in that, is through real estate. You build apartments and hopefully that you can rent out and make money in the process. And I had the idea, and I said, okay, I want to get into the apartment business. Okay. So coming back to 2024, January, when I was in the Gambia, I needed to, you're talking about 6 apartments. So we needed 6 meters and a water meter. So we went to Bijilo, the NAWEC, fill out the application, even though my nephew was telling me, Uncle, I'm not smart enough. Why? He will not go tapato within 48 hours. He will get it all done. My thing was like, I cannot be out here talking about corruption at every turn. And here, out of convenience, for me to just, so we went and they said, okay, this is how it works. This is the process. Fill out an application, pay $500, which I did. They say, okay, the 6 meters is $8,000 each, so it's $48,000. Now, apartments were just in the process of getting built. They weren't ready at all. So the advice was like, why don't you just get 1 meter, the electric meter and the water meter, and then, we'll fix that. And then when the apartments are done, then you can apply for the rest. I'm like, fine. So they said, and what really convinced me was this whole thing about paying it through a bank. And I really like that. I had the same experience when I go to apply for passport, and they say, you go to EcoBank, pay it, and the money would go directly to you. And I'm like, okay, I really do like that. So we went to EcoBank, paid the $16,000. A receipt was given, deposited, and the whole process was to take it back to NAWEC, make an appointment, and then they will come and do their thing. That sounds easy, really. And I did. Okay. Until I came back, nothing was done. So I left the whole process with my nephew. This is a month later. I'm in the nothing. I would call my nephew. He would go to NAWEC. NAWEC, they said they can't find the payment. Even though he has the receipt showing that payment was made, nothing. Okay. So he was kind of trying to convince me. Some people saying, no, I'm not your hand. They can follow it up. You pay them this amount of money, they'll follow it up and make sure that it gets done. I just thought, like, wow, I just paid $16,000. Why would I want to pay $3,000 to somebody else just to follow it up? It doesn't make sense to me. Apparently, that's how the game is played. If you don't do that, it's not gonna get done. A year later, when I went back, man lead now for small body. Boy, I had a rude awakening. I went to go to accounting office at NAWEC, go to this place, that place. Well, uncle, why good? This is the reason why we don't deal with EcoBank. But sometimes when payments are made, account we need, they try to over-explain. So maybe you're better off going back to EcoBank in order to be able to get your money. I went to EcoBank, trying to get my money. Nothing. up and down, go and talk to this person, that person. And they were asking me questions, they are totally irrelevant. I'm showing you a payment was made with a deposit. And this guy was asking me, do you know the lady that you actually made the payment to? I'm like, how the hell will I know? It was one of your cashiers. Why is that even relevant? Do you see this payment to you? Here it is, EcoBank. Bro, that are frustrating as hell. I'm there for 3 weeks trying to kind of make this thing work. It didn't happen. So I had to abandon that. And this was an advice given by somebody else and said, you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and make a fresh application and then pay it through Bloombank and then go from there. And I kind of did that also and follow it religiously, with help, of course. And I was able to get the electric part of it sorted out. But again, my 16,000 is still hanging in the balance. No water meter as well. Until today, no water meter. And now it kept telling me, we can see, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I'm like, what in the world is this? I'm showing you a receipt. And your process, your procedures that you have in place is go pay through a bank, bring the payment slip to confirm that you actually paid. Why is it taking forever? So unfortunately, I don't know whether the problem is with the EcoBank or the problem is with NAWEC. But everything is said and done, almost close to 2 years later, I don't know what happened to my 16K. It's not a lot of money, but it's my money. And actually it has, if I were to be given the money back today, it's gonna worth less. Because at that time, the exchange rate was $60. Now it's 70 something dollars. So you see what I'm saying? Again, and I'm gonna come here every Sunday and I'm gonna be talking about my 16,000 until I get the money. And also on top of that, we're gonna have this new program. All of you guys that are listening, because we have to talk about this corruption. There's this 30 million oil saga. And all we say is we're gonna talk about it in a month or so, it'll be gone. We see what is happening in local government every day. Some crazy things. People depositing money, local government revenue into their own individual accounts. There's a problem. And unless and until we take it head on and shame these people and talk about it, I don't think it's gonna, it's ever gonna be able to be. Now, do I believe that we'll be able to totally eliminate it? No. But we have to talk about it, Brother Maron. And EcoBank, ordinary, you guys owe me money, 16K. And I'm not gonna quit until I get my money. And again, I'm not a water meter. The apartments are there, they know them rotten dog, and a friend told me, you are better off getting borehole. Just go ahead, forget about NAWEC, and just them know it is a better borehole. That's frustrating. I'm hearing it from a lot of people. But that's my beef, Brother Maron, unfortunately. Really.
NAWEC and EcoBank, please refund Musa Jeng's money, please.
They need to do that. And there is a guy I was dealing with EcoBank, and I don't wanna bring his name into it today.
But Musa, here is the thing though. You've been trying to get this result for 2 years, and I don't know why you couldn't call him or her out on social media. I mean, maybe that would force them to do the right thing. And I think if it results to that, that's what we all need to do,
Right.
I mean, it's sad. I mean, we all watch this, and it's just ingrained into their day-to-day activity. No one wants to do the right thing. It's all about themselves and their families, and it's pretty sad. And that's why there's absolutely poor delivery of services, because the funds that's supposed to go towards making the structure or the process is better goes into individual pockets. So if something goes down, how are they going to fund it? They can't even, if you look at NAWEC, they were kind of getting relieved for their debt obligation, and you kind of look at the explanation of what you just said. it kind of works into that. I mean, if a public, yeah, if a public institution can't even pay their debt services, I mean, it's a problem. You got to look at every single thing, how they are managing their own internal finance. But we got to adjust the Madi and Nar. Welcome, brothers, and
Welcome, guys. And hey, we have to talk about it. And I'm sure that you guys living on the ground, you can relate to the frustration. But this is my frustration, and I can guarantee you, a whole lot of us.
You get a lease land, 2 million, and someone turn around and sell it for 15 million, but hasn't paid a dime out of it, doesn't have the documentation, and we all need to be okay with that type of leadership. I think it's just wrong. I mean, the stuff that's coming out of the commissions are just horrible, and and I think you were talking about local governments. If you go to the central government itself, I think you will see stuff that is just absolutely. Even Fabakari Tombonjaro couldn't have it when did did you watch that? He has a meltdown, man. He says we cannot business as usual. No, I mean the vehement that what's called it, the Minister of Finance went and did, and there was so much between the vouchers and all the payment structures that they didn't bring in, and there is so much money unaccounted for. And I think they are frustrated. They are all calling for strict policy and adherence to the law. So I don't know. I mean, you think about 2.5 million population, still now 60 years. I mean, there's so much fund grants that are coming. We're struggling, and people think the status quo is okay. So, but you know what? That's gonna be for another day.
The reason why politicians are not even going to pay anything as far as being accused of corruption, it's this nonchalant and this acceptance within us. I mean, people will tell you that you're gonna apply for a passport. They tell you, we'll waste the time. You're gonna go through the process, pay through the money through EcoBank, and you get. But again, if you don't find somebody else that you can grease $2,000 most likely it's not gonna get done. You're young for a month. I mean, and you wanna get it done. It's not gonna happen unless and until you pay somebody. People accept. So that adds to the same thing. When now I understand that you pay through a bank, I'm like, wow, this is really nice. It means the money is going to end up at Nawek's bank account. You would think. And then here I am, and I can make the heads and tails of it. Why is it? Where is the breakdown? Now I cannot tell you, oh, they want to have a Monica account section. Oh, they want to keep Monica account section. Then EcoBank, oh, you have to talk to this person. Oh, I never was in a Kimola what you refund me. Now I'm like, anyway. Brother Madi Marr, welcome on For the People, by the People. Both of you have been here before.
Madi's camera is kind of blurry. I don't know what's going on, whether it's the atmosphere outside, but
who's that, Madi?
Yes, Madi.
Wow. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all right. It's all right as long as we can hear you loud and clear. But
Okay. I may see how to improve the picture quality, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not. Matt is an expert in this, so you see how clear he's
But no,
yes,
it's just the internet connection. It is what it is.
Yeah, as long as the internet is good, I think I can.
Yeah,
I can stick with that. It's all good.
Madi Marr, again, welcome to the For the People, by the People. Another snack. And going all the way back, we're now in 2025. There is no constitution. And both of you, I mean, we're well aware of your positions as far as especially the 2024 draft was concerned. We thought it's important to bring both of you to talk about it. We don't need to talk about what happened, because we all understand the politics of it. But what else is out there? What can we do? And the fact that both of you belong to a civil society organization, and both of you see it differently, and maybe it's important to find out, why do you see it? Why the way Marr Nyang's approach as far as the 2024 draft was concerned is different from Madi's take? And when everything is said and done, obviously, at the National Assembly, What does that say about and we can start with what happened and why did you take the position that you took, that this is really the way to can you explain to our viewers, because some people out there were out there very critical of the position that you've taken, sometimes accused, but again, can you tell us your position as far as the 2024 draft, why you took that position, and why you think that was really the right position to take? Yeah.
Thank you, Uncle Musa and Uncle Madi, and Uncle Sariang. It's a pleasure to be back here. Musa hanga sun koto nga malawi Uncle Musa, why nala oye Musa throughout the call. So
no bad feeling, man. I always hear uncle all over the place. So I'm good.
But to be serious and honest, the position that I took on the 2024 draft is no different from the 2020 draft. Working with the civil society and as a neutral person in this political mess that we found ourselves in, my interest and the interest of my organization is that of the interest of the population, which is we need constitutional reform. We know the current legal frameworks are untenable. We know they are more prone to autocracy and also give executive monopoly to any government that is in power. In 2020, when the draft constitution was published in 2019, actually, November 2019, we look at that constitution. We took pride of what was drafted, and we also took pride of the consultation that we experienced. And then also through the CSO Coalition Budget Transparency, we submitted a report and a position paper. But most importantly as well, when it was published in March, we did a comparative analysis between the 1997 Constitution and the 2020 draft Constitution. And our position was the 2020 draft Constitution has to be passed, and it has to go through Parliament with amendments. Unfortunately, my position has been so different with that of Madi in 2020, because his position was for the Constitution to be passed through Parliament without any dot being amended by the parliamentarians. For us, we know lawmaking is political. Interests have to be balanced, but those interests must not dilute that of the general interest of the population. So we call parliamentarians. Personally, I call parliamentarians, made statements that, look, let this pass to the committee stage and do the necessary amendments. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. In 2020, I don't think there was anyone that was more disappointed than I am when the 2020 draft constitution was published. But I am an advocate. We do lobbying. We know how to rise above our frustration and our anger, and pull out the acrimony in us to look at the interests of the public. So we did the same thing we did, even more than we did in 2020, to look at the 2024 draft compared with the 2020 draft, made recommendations, right? And the recommendation that we made, if only they were taken heed of by our parliamentarians, if only they in fact look at those documents, or the political parties we have shared those documents with, we believe we would have had a constitution that was going to be better than the 1997, 1970, 2020 draft, and then also the 2024 draft. But this cannot happen without the due process being followed at the National Assembly. The primary mandate of a parliamentarian, or should I say the core three mandates of the legislature, one on top of all is lawmaking. That's why they call them lawmakers. Second is they represent the voice of the people and then also do oversight. So if an executive brings a bill before Parliament, they bring in a bill. That's why it is called a bill. It is not a law. It is a proposal, right? So Parliament, being the lawmaking institution, must exercise their lawmaking powers. And how do you do this? You do this by consulting different stakeholders in this process. If you feel like the executive has failed in consulting the people on the 2024 draft, we were telling parliamentarians, you actually have the more authority and mandate to consult the people. Because just like the president, you all represent 53 constituencies of this country, and those 53 constituencies makes up the Gambia. So let's consult the people, engage and see what the concerns are, and then amend what is not good in the 2024 draft. I was not happy with everything that I saw in the constitution in the 2024 draft, and that's why we made a 91-page document, hundreds of tons of recommendations to better that document. Because what we failed to understand, and I mentioned this, right? This whole stuff was not about whether the constitution was reflective of the needs and aspirations of the people or not. It wasn't the case. There's never going to be any constitution that will reflect the needs and aspirations of a whole nation. It's never going to happen. There are certain provisions in the constitution that works for certain demography, and it does not work for the others. That's how lawmaking is. But the most important thing is the fundamental human rights have to be guaranteed. And those are guaranteed in the 2024 draft. There are obviously separation of powers, but within those separation of powers, that's one thing that we have also witnessed, or read in the document, where there's overlapping powers. And we realized that was not good. There should not be an overlapping power between the executive and that of the judiciary. And there should not be an overlapping power between the legislature and that of the executive. The overlapping powers should be that of the legislature and that of the judiciary. So we made those recommendations, right? So unfortunately, 2020, the same thing. They refused to sit and look at each other. And when I say they, I mean the UDP and then that of now the NPP. Even though there was formally the NPP was not having any parliamentarian, but then we know those that are pro the ruling government at the time. They refused to sit and then agree on certain issues and look at the Gambia first and look at the citizens first. Citizens were denied that opportunity. In 2024, citizens were denied that opportunity. In 1996, citizens were actually given the opportunity to decide whether they want the 1996 constitution or to remain with the 1970 constitution. So that has been our position, because we saw this to be political, and then we also realized there is invested interest within the political fraternity, and we understand that we have to manage those interests. And that's the reason why we were saying, take this document, go to the committee stage and look at it. There's nothing wrong with that. But to outright reject it without looking at the content of the document, for me, that was so disappointing. And as a country, if we cannot put our political difference aside, and the one thing that actually frustrates me the most was there in 2020, the position that we are taking was the position of a political party, not parliamentarians. In 2024, the positions that we are taking were the position of political parties. Only one parliamentarian who was with the ruling party was, bold enough to come out and say, I'm going to reject this. All of the others took their position. APRC said they're going to protect the legacy of the Gambia. So with that, they're going to protect the legacy of the Ajame. So that was the position, to protect the legacy of an individual. UDP took their position. They took that position. NPP took their position. They took that position. So for me, that was a disappointing part, because they represent people. And most importantly, those people in their constituency, whether they voted for them or not, based on our consultation, there are those obviously in this constituencies that are not in support of the constitution. There are those that are in support of constitutional reform. And even those that are not in support of this 2024 draft constitution, they said there should be constitutional reform. How are we going to achieve that? There is no way that you're going to bring the 2020 draft constitution without going through the government. There is no way you're going to achieve constitutional reform without building political consensus. So this is the frustration.
So, Marr, just a follow-up. What the other side is basically saying, we all know how we got here, going all the way back, 20 years of dictatorship. There were aspirations and the way change is supposed to happen. And the constitution was always there, that the moment we send the dictator packing, we will come and put together a people's constitution. And that's how the whole thing started. So they're saying, we put together a people's constitution that was basically sabotaged going all the way back in 2020? By the government. And it didn't stop there. After sabotaging their own bill, their own constitution that they put out there at the National Assembly, they worked against it. But then they are claiming, not only did they do that, they did not consult. When it failed, the rightful thing to do is to bring all the stakeholders together and say, okay, what are the differences? Let's find common ground. They said they didn't do that. They went ahead and made changes that basically undermine what we've always fight, and that is a powerful executive at the expense of the people. So they're saying, we're not going to have that. That's why they call it names like the Barros Papers, that we are not going to allow one individual to dictate the building of a constitution that belongs to the people. What do you say to that? I mean, do you see that this is reasonable for them to vote against it because of the whole process, the lack of consultation? And also there is the trust factor. What do you say to that?
So first off, the 2020 draft obviously was better than that of the 1997 constitution and more progressive than that of the 2024 draft. But that document does not reflect the needs and aspirations of the whole Gambia, right? If you ask the Christian community, they rejected that document in its entirety. If you ask the Supreme Islamic Council, they rejected that document in its entirety. So how do we qualify that as a document that reflects the needs and aspirations of all the Gambian people? So, like I said in the beginning, you're not going to achieve that. To go back to your second question, the lack of consultation. I think I was more furious than anybody else in this process because we started this process long time ago. After the 2020 draft was rejected, we engaged political heads through our two interlocutors. At the time, it was Salou Tal and John Charles Njai, that were engaging the ruling party, engaging the opposition, engaging the faith groups, and then a position paper was developed. And these were principles that must be incorporated in this constitution that the government is actually preparing. We don't know at the time whether it was going to be 2020, 2023 or 2024. All that we knew were there were certain key issues, core issues that we had agreed upon that they must not be compromised, right? We prepared those documents and then we brought them back and then we validated it, right? And then last year, we held the Constitutional Review on Convergence. All the political stakeholders came except that of the NPP. When we called the NPP, we were told that they received directive from the executive that they should not participate in that program because they're already working on the Constitution. We were furious, angry, disappointed, but the conversation went ahead. So when this document came, we sat and looked at it. I did not make any comment. I sat and looked at it, and at some point when I read certain clauses, they look funny to me. But then I realized that, look, if we go and reject this, what is the consequence? The consequence is going to be going by the 1997 Constitution, and it works for any government that is in power because all the governments are interested in its power, consolidating power, having executive monopoly. And that's what the 1997 Constitution actually provides. So we were disappointed, right? But then we sat and I said, look, let's look at the document. Let's look at the 2024 document, make recommendations. At least if we do this, engage the stakeholders, and they be able to strike compromise, then they will be able to achieve constitution. This is what our religion actually even taught us. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was actually working on the Medina Charter, they were compromised. At the time, there was no Sharia. And other treaties that he has actually broken. So I think the process from the government is the consequence of what we are facing right now. Whenever government is making sensitive documents like that of a constitution, people must be consulted. I wasn't consulted. My organization were not consulted. Tango also came out with a statement that they were not consulted. Prominent civil society organizations stated that they were not consulted. So the consultation was not that of a meaningful consultation. We were not happy with the process. But as advocates that look at the interests of the people, we said, okay, now it's going to go to the National Assembly. And what we understand of parliamentary process, whenever a document prepares a bill or any other document that comes to Parliament, it becomes a document of the Parliament. Parliament must take charge of the document, just like they have done with all the other bills that came through Parliament. They engage experts, they engage civil society. So if the government failed their consultation in bringing in that bill, Parliament can actually remedy that. Like I said, we have 53 constituencies, all of whom have representative in the National Assembly. Can we have our National Assembly go back to the people without prejudice in their engagement with the citizens? Not to go there and tell them, this is what the borough government wants to do, this is what they want, and they're calling it, this is the constitution. It was a bill, and then what must have been said at the time was, this is what they proposed, this is what we can do as parliamentarians to amend it. So I think National Assembly, just like South Africa did, the South African government did not prepare their 1996 constitution. It was the parliament that prepared that document. So parliament have more legal authority to actually do that instead of the government. And to your third question, regarding the lack of trust, Musa, we have to stop fooling each other, right? Parliament cannot come and tell us that we don't trust our opposition. When they were passing the parliamentary remuneration bill, which seeks to increase the salaries of the parliamentarians, did they say, let's reject it because we don't trust our fellow parliamentarians? They passed it.
Yeah.
When they were approving the allocation of vehicles for themselves, they didn't say this is not something that we should do. We don't trust our opposition. They passed it.
Yeah.
But when the judicial remuneration bill came, they rejected it. Why? Because people were calling them out.
Right.
That you reject it. So I think that should not have been done. And so many other bills that came through Parliament, they allow it to go through the parliamentary procedures. My disappointment is the fact that we cannot stand and then say to our political party, look, I think the country needs this, and then we should move. Musa, where you come from, we see the Republicans voting for bills in support of the democracy and then in support of the Democrat and vice versa. These things happened. Can't we have our parliamentarians for once stand the voices of the people and disagree with their political leaders? We've had names. And when I was listening the opening of this discussion, I was emotional when I heard Sariang saying that we must censor the kind of words that comes out of our mouth, right? We must control our tongue. If I disagree with Madi on this, do I have to come and insult Madi? Since 2020, me and Madi had disappointment. In fact, during the 2024 draft, I jokingly told Madi, you are the reason why the 2020 draft was rejected, and you are the reason why the 2024 draft is going to be rejected. Once it was rejected, he came to me and said, my condolences. Right? So we disagree, but we must not. We must not insult each other. We can disagree, but debate solutions. I was interested in the solutions. So unfortunately, it didn't work, but still, the country moves on. And we are not going to be just retiring and relegate and watch the country get into the woods. We are not going to allow that. We're going to continue the work and we fix the errors.
Thank you very much, Mar. Let me hand it over to Karam. I mean, not Karam. Brother Maram. Yeah, you can either go to Madi or Mar, either one. Brother Maram, did you hear me?
No. I hear you.
Oh,
Yeah, I hear you. Very, very, very interesting discussion. And listening to Mar, but I wanted to push back a little bit, and hopefully, not push back, I would say, but follow up on what Musa just asked. And I think here is the thing, Mar. Coming out of dictatorship, we all understand the excess power that the former president has and the longevity of his presidency emboldened him on doing things that are, against human rights and all these things. With that thinking, people had this aspiration that we're going to have a new constitution. Granted, there was consultation, globally and nationally. Now that failed. We all we seen the political kamikaze folks saying, "Oh, this constitution is discriminatory," even though there was about 116,000 million spent on it, and there was consultation made, and there was these, political quagmire, and it failed. Now, what it failed was particularly, I know, everyone else knew, was there was one particular thing, which is the retroactive clause. Now, granted, it didn't pass. It was rejected. Now, bringing back to 2024 draft, the position of the government, there was pitfalls because basically, if things didn't work out the first time, going out there, zero consultation, amending important clauses out of the Constitution, and I hear they're saying, "Oh, we need to have it passed to the next stage," irrespective of the political posturing that people are alluding to, saying one side is. But what are some of the things from the get-go? I mean, was there a goodwill that this whole thing, honestly, going out there without consulting civil societies? Because they said, I mean, the Gambia Bar Association, when the Minister of Justice said there was consultation, they refute that claim. They said absolutely there was not. Now, those major, huge, big stakeholders were left out, and they went out there and amend these clauses, bringing back. At that stage, what do you think? I mean, it was there actually, if you had to call it out as it is, and we all knew, I sat down here, I predicted the outcome that we are discussing today. Musa and I had this thing, and I said, everything that I've been seeing so far, I mean, it has to be good faith. The good faith means, in any negotiation, you have to give and take. We get that. But when you go out there and water it down completely to shoot one individual, I think that's very, very problematic. And we're not saying all Gambians are in for the 2020 constitution. Now, but I think you would agree with me that majority of Gambians are in for the 2020 constitution. But you cannot say that on the 2024, because I think people had deep reservations. The idea of even not consulting people at the cabinet level, making those changes without consulting the overall majority of key stakeholders is very problematic. And what the end result was, it didn't pass. It failed. Now, where do we move from here? 1997 Constitution, and the 2024 failed, 2020 failed, 2024 failed. But don't you think the onus lies on the folks? Yes, Parliament needs to make laws. I get this. But I think that argument is flawed. I mean, basically, because it started on a wrong footing from the foundation. The solid foundation was not laid out from the get-go. That it creates this problem. I would, if I was the AG, I would involve the civil societies. I would involve bar associations, even the opposition, who ultimately will be needed to vote for these constitutions. But that was not done. That was not. So how can we square this with a straight face and say, okay, it's on both political parties? Yes, they voted for it, but I think the foundation, the solid foundation was missed from the beginning, and that trickled down to where we are today. And what say you to that? I mean, that's why I'm trying to find out. I go back to Musa.
From somewhere. I'm like, okay, come on, you're doing a bunker on me. Where's the question? Go ahead.
Thank you, Sari. I will address the first question, which was where there was goodwill from the beginning to get or achieve constitutional reform. And I think that's an important question that most people are not asking. I don't think the political will was there from the beginning. Afrobarometer actually validated this, because when they did their survey before this draft constitution was being discussed, majority of the people said that there is no political will to achieve constitutional reform. So either the UDP or the NPP, I think none of them are interested in achieving this constitutional reform. And that's where we refuse to get to be trapped in this whole process, right? There's one thing that we are not talking about. This 1997 constitution is favorable to passively, I mean, maybe that's how they presumably see these things, that, okay, if you go to 2026, we have the first past the post system. By one vote, I will be the winner of the election. That's the reality. That's how most of them actually see this 1997 constitution being favorable to them for election purposes. If we have the 50+1, it is going to be very difficult for one political party to achieve 51% of the total vote cast in an election. It was going to be tough. So they are not being honest to people about the main reason why they're rejecting this. Sharia, even if the government brought a Sharia law as perfect as it is, it goes to parliament, they're going to quash it. They're going to touch it. They're going to squeeze it. They're going to amend it to suit their taste. Mm-hmm. And even if that's the law of God, that's how political lawmaking is. So the government, no matter the type of document they bring to parliament, as perfect as it is, whether the foundation was good or not, at the end of the day, the most important thing is the question that you ask. That is the political will. I think the political will is not there. And the second thing regarding what you said, majority of Gambians, I think what has happened when we went through the communities and engaged parliamentarians and their constituents and everywhere. We went to Burfoot, Sanimentarian constituency. We were speaking to some youth folks. At the time, the constitution was already out. When we engage these young people and we tell them some of the things that are in the constitution and told them the powers of lawmakers, someone stood up and told us that I was not in support of this constitution, but what you said is what is going to be practiced, I think we should give the country a chance for them to look at this document and amend it. Right? So the information, the way it was communicated, and then I think it was politicized. In a sense, they made this look as if it is one of the most evil documents we've ever seen. The conversations were based on the flaws of the document, and we also documented those flaws, and we provide recommendation. What was not said during this conversation was, what are the solutions to the removal of Chapter 5 of the Constitution? Mm-hmm. What are the solutions in maintaining separation of powers between the legislature and the executive, so that no president, either Barrow or anyone, no president will nominate and revoke the nomination of a parliamentarian? Those solutions were not discussed. Even if the 2020 constitution is brought as it is and passed, that Chapter 5, if there are no political will, the fight against corruption that you were talking about, it's not going to happen. Kenya has that Chapter 5 in their constitution, leadership and integrity, and it's been discussed that Kenya is almost overtaking Nigeria when it comes to corruption. The legal frameworks could be there. Political will has to be there to enforce those laws. So whether the foundation was strong, there are so many things and processes in this country where the foundation was not perfect, and we condone them. The former president's bill, when it was brought to parliament, it was brought under the certificate of emergency. The foundation was not right. Parliament passed it, and it was this parliament. The budget should be consultative, and that's why we call it participatory budgeting. But you've never seen parliament rejecting a budget, and the budget is what funds the constitution.
Exactly.
And that's why it is called the second most important document after the Constitution, because the Constitution creates the budget, and the budget funds all the other institutions that are legislated or codified in the Constitution. They pass it, and they pass it with amendments. In the National Assembly, we have committees. We have committees on constitutional matters, human rights, gender, children, health, education, agriculture, you name it. Our advocacy was, if you allow this constitution to pass to the committee stage, all of this committee, it is going to be referred to the committee, but that committee could actually tax all of these committees to engage experts, go to the constituencies, hear the people, and draft a constitution that is going to be better than the 2020, 1997 included, and then that of the 2024 draft. Unfortunately, now, to go back to your question, the lack of political will from the beginning, and we should ask this question: was the Barrow government actually interested in achieving constitutional reform or repealing this 1997 constitution, which is at their advantage?
Exactly.
So if you have been trapped, if a trap was set to do all of these unbelievable amendments and then take it to Parliament, if it is rejected, say, oh, okay, the people rejected it, so we go back with the 1997 constitution. I refuse to get into that trap, and that was the reason why we had to look at things at the bigger picture and we took a neutral stand. Unfortunately, now today the 1997 constitution is in the advantage of the Barrow government. Over.
Yeah, my Father Mose.
Yeah.
my landed friend, Mr. Suleiman Ba, he was saying, Saria, take note, the 20. Well, that's not what I'm trying to say. We get that. He didn't pass. He was rejected. What I'm trying to say, majority, at least majority have inputs into the 2020 draft. Okay, so sometimes I think how we interpret things. We get it. We know it has to go to referendum and all that. It hasn't passed that stage.
And Madi.
Where is Madi at?
So, okay, here comes Madi.
We get it. We know it has to go to referendum. Is that Madi?
Yeah.
Past that stage.
Madi, maybe you have your Madi.
Where's Madi? My brother, man.
Madi, you there?
I'm here. I have, I don't know, internet, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, Madi, we're gonna get you into the conversation. Look, Madi, I've been following both you and Marr, and
I haven't got you.
Can you hear me, Madi? You there?
Say that again?
Yes. Are you there? Can you hear me? No. Madi, you can hear me?
Yeah, I'm.
I think Madi is definitely having internet issues. So, yeah. But Marr, let me come back. I have to admit, I like the position that you have taken, unlike maybe some of the commentators. I've always believed the Marr Nyangs of this world and myself, we are not necessarily in support of the 2024 draft. All we are saying is, if you're a political realist and you are interested in having the debate for a constitution, allow it to go past the second reading and let these people get start at it. Let them agree to disagree. And people will say, well, I mean, the moment we get to the committee stage, it's pretty much a simple majority. I'm like, okay, let it be a simple majority. Let's say that these people decided that whatever they want it to stay in because they have the edge, a simple majority, and they will vote it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But the last time I checked, they're saying that same bill will have to come back to the National Assembly itself, the consideration stage, and will be voted upon. And when that happens, if these people refuse to compromise, you can vote against it. Why do you think they haven't explored that, Marr? That's the one number question that I wanted Madi to let me know realistically. If we're really interested in giving this thing a chance, how come they did not allow it to go past the second reading? Where at least, because the other side is saying, well, just bring it on and we will look at it and we will compromise. Why do you think they didn't want to do that? Is it more of an emotional reaction, or are these people seriously interested in a new constitution? Marr, that's the question I want to ask Madi. But you can.
You are right, and the threshold is actually the same as that of the second reading. Mm-hmm. So the threshold is very high. The constitution does not just make it easy for you to kill it. So the second reading, 2/3 majority, you go to the committee stage, and this is what we are telling parliamentarians. If it goes to the committee stage and you feel like the trust that you have or the trust that you have to your fellow parliamentarians is not being guaranteed and they're playing with that document, the third reading, the threshold is the same. So you reject it there. But what we need to understand is this constitution was actually rejected before it was formally presented to National Assembly. When it was gazetted in 2024, it was already clear. APRC made it clear we will bury it, quote, 6 feet deep, unquote. UDP already mentioned we're going to reject it. So the possibility for it to be discussed, the possibility to build compromise, consensus was actually closed. So the issue here, and I wrote this after the constitution was rejected. This whole stuff was between it's a rift between a beef and rift between Ousainou Darboe and that of Adama Barrow. That's the truth. And people don't. I mean, you can insult me. I mean, that's not going to be written on my forehead, at least, right? But the reality is, when the 2019 draft constitution was published in November 2019, and Barrow had his reservation and also made it to the public known about their issues with the retroactive clause that Sariang did mention, right? There was opportunity for, in fact, there was a closed-door conversation, closed-door meeting between the CRC and then that of the cabinet. And this retroactive clause was one of those. But in March 2020, when the final draft constitution was published, the same document was there, the same provisions were there. And I said that could contribute to the major divorce between President Barrow and then that of Ousainou Darboe. So one is defending the constitution that he thinks should be there. The other one is defending the constitution that he thinks should be there. Where is the people in this equation? So Parliament should not have taken the position of their political party. They should have taken the position of the citizen, which is the need for there to be sound constitutional reform. So I think it was just political, but to answer your question, the threshold to kill the 1997 constitution is very high. They could have actually, if the necessary amendments were not done, I personally, and I mentioned this in different platforms, if the necessary amendments were not done, I personally will come during the third reading and campaign for the rejection of the 2024 draft.
Yes.
Even if you bring, let's say worst case scenario, you bring the 2024 draft constitution as it is, the 2020 draft. You bring the 2020 draft as it is, without any amendment being made. You take it to Parliament. What is the composition of Parliament right now? Is the NPP not still having the majority? 35 voted in support of the constitution. If they go to the committee stage, if it is simple majority, are they not going to make the 2020 draft worse than the 1997 and then that of the 2024 draft? So how can you say, bring the 2020 draft, let it go to parliamentary procedure and amend it, but not any other constitution? That's not a reasonable stand.
It's not. It's definitely not. It's definitely not, because that was the same argument that was being made. There was this National Assembly member from, I think, Old Yundum. He was basically making that argument, hypocritically, no doubt, because he's telling them, look, during the 2020 debate, you guys were asking us to allow it to get to the committee stage, and then it will be sanitized. We can fix it. And now you were making that argument for the 2020 draft, but somehow you don't want to make that same argument for the 2024 draft. So for me, there is that lack of inconsistency. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And I've listened to arguments on Facebook. I am not convinced. Do I support the 2024 draft? No, I don't. Am I disgusted that the Barrow and his cabinet decided to tamper with it and put in clause that they like or they don't like? I have an issue with it. But the question is it in the interest of the opposition? And that really matters. I'm not being emotional about it. Was it in the interest of the opposition to reject the 2024 draft? I don't believe it. I don't think it's in our interest, especially the looming 2026 presidential elections. For me, that's why I need somebody, a Madi Jorbateh, and I've heard people like Karamba, and there are people out there, not a mass, that believe that rejection is the only way out. But politically, I think it's a bad mistake. Pastor Mbajau is Sunday, he's at work, and I want to allow him to chime in. Pap Samba.
Mar, greetings to you, Madi, and everybody. Rejection is not a bad thing. And I think it was necessary, given the dishonesty of the Barrow administration in this whole process. Musa, at some point, I was really tinkering with the idea of, yeah, maybe let's take it to a second reading or to the committee stage. But we saw the same National Assembly. They went to a committee stage. The committee came with a bill, the elections bill. Everything agreed. Only for Adama Barrow's National Assembly members to reject what was agreed upon. And that is why diasporans cannot vote. And they turn around and want to use that rejection as a way to sell their 2024 draft. There has never been any goodwill from Adama Barrow and his government and his NPP for the Gambia to have a constitution that they deserve. Constitution process, and you know, Musa, here's the thing. Everything that people are focused on today, or the 2-term limit, or 50+1, or diaspora vote, you know all that takes? Amendment. The 50+1 can be amended by the National Assembly without it having to go through a referendum, because it's not an entry clause. If they want the 2-term limits, Adama Barrow would have gotten another term anyway. Put it on the ballot. Right? Then they come with a piecemeal amendment of the Constitution, because one of the biggest fears that we had in the Constitution was the indemnity clause of the 1997 Constitution, where we felt that Jammeh and his people will never be able to be held to account because of some of the that indemnity clause that was added there. There was an interpretation at the Supreme Court by the justices of the Supreme Court that, you know what, human rights violations are not covered by that. So maybe that was taken care of. So to me, I have no problem with the rejection of the Barrow draft, because I believe 100% that Barrow sent a draft to the National Assembly, not out of desire for a new constitution, but out of compliance. Because of some of these international organizations that have been helping to fund this, have been pushing him to do that. So he had to do something. And I just want to say something before I get off, Musa.
Mm-hmm.
People must be very careful and sometimes how we characterize people.
Mm-hmm.
Just because a Marr Nyang or a Madi Jorbateh or somebody takes a position does not mean that they are a sellout. In every constitution building, there will be people who will take different positions. It is absolutely disgusting when I see people, and they have their rights to what their accusations are, but at least let's do it based on facts. To want to accuse people, Marr and others, or they are just on the payroll of the government, or they are just using this so that they can have a job, is utter nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot all agree to a situation. There are people who are dying to have a constitution because they believe that the 1997 constitution is not fit for purpose. Therefore, they are pushing for a constitution that will be fit for purpose for Gambians. And they would do their advocacy. But that does not in any way mean that they are sellouts. Just the same way that just because the UDP and others rejected this constitution, this draft, that they do not care for the country or they don't know what electoral reforms. No. People take positions based on principles. And we have to learn to respect people and the positions that they take without trying to throw aspersions at them based on wild accusations. To me, it's nonsensical. But again, I am glad that the Barrow draft was thrown back to where it belongs, in the dustbin, because I believe it was not fit for purpose. It was not done with good intentions. And Musa, we've had this disagreement. We'll continue to have this disagreement, but I'll join you guys later again. I'll listen. Thank you.
Gis nga Marr, lii mooy suñ problem. You know, some of these activists on steroids, the Madi Jorbatehs and the Pap Sambas, when you listen to the man, nobody is saying that we endorse the 2024 draft. Reasonable people and people that are basically making the political calculation, they're saying, what's the rush? allow it to get to the committee stage where this thing can be debated. No, we're not going to do that. So to me, that's an emotional reaction. And now, for me, sir, politically, you wanna really convince Gambians that in as much as there is a majority that believes that, there is no commitment from the current government that they're not interested in. One could even make that assumption that they're not interested in a new constitution. The political will is not there. And definitely, looking at it, I don't think there is political will from the Barrow government. But let's look at the transition. And this is where this thing is very dangerous. The Barrow of 2017, 2018, 2019, and the Barrow of 2025, there's a huge difference. Barrow going back to 2019, he was not all that very powerful. He wasn't emboldened. There's a difference. But the Barrow of today, and why am I saying that? You remember the 2020 draft, most people are saying if the deal was made to eliminate the retroactive clause, we would have gotten a new constitution. That retroactivity clause that everybody was talking about, if you go back and you listen to the argument back in the 2020, if we were to make that deal, and when I say we, meaning the opposition, if we were to make that deal, we would be looking at a new constitution. Really, and that deal could have been made and allow this thing to happen. But unfortunately, we didn't. And we ended up a 2024 draft that is even worse than 2020. But check this out. Let's assume we go through the elections, 2026. And Barrow wins. And don't tell me that's not possible. If he wins, what do you think is going to happen? I can guarantee you they can even come up with a draft constitution worse than the 2024. Or don't tell me that, people are going to reject it. What happens if he wins the presidential in 2026? And then we go into the National Assembly elections, and there is going to be, because look, the political climate would be different, that he happens to have the majority in the National Assembly. Then he has the DC Atu. He can do whatever he wants as far as the constitution is concerned. And he will sell it to the Gambian people, especially if he wins the presidential. Why would I want to take that risk, my friend? That is, to me, a huge political risk. Why do we want to do that? For me, the same thing to do was to allow this thing to get to the second stage, because, again, they know how the Gambian people feel. We can give and take. We can say, okay, fine, chapter 5, leave it out. Integrity clause, what the hell is that going to do? We can leave it out. That would be our compromise. What else? Okay. And then you give and take and give and take. When everything is said and done, we have our 50+1 and we will have a term limit. I always said this, insurance policy in my back pocket. The 50+1 that gives us a better chance of running a race against the incumbent. That's man lola gum. But that's off the table. You go under the 1997 constitution to contest the 26th elections. Samba can say whatever he wants. We reject it. To me, that's an emotional, position to take. And I wish that Madi is on so that he can. Madi is here. Yes. Brother Madi.
Yeah.
I'm far of.
since the rain started, my internet or
I'll let Madi speak, then I'll have a take.
Yeah. Sorry, Sarian.
No problem.
Madi, you heard Marr Nyang, and of course you heard me buttressing some of the points he made. You've heard Pa Samba and you've heard Sarian. What's your take, Brother Madi? People are saying we're not getting a constitution because of Madi Jorbateh.
You see? Okay, well, people have a right to their opinion, but rest assured, Madi will not stand back, on a matter that is about his destiny and his future and and his life and the life of all of you and my children and so on. This is my country, so let them do as Madi is doing. Just as me and Mar have been. So he's showing me he won't give me space because it's his country, and I'm showing him I won't give you space because it's my country. So maybe one day we'll come to terms, and I think that's why I appreciate him. Because we have to have citizens who everyone stand up like him, like me, like you, and Sergeant here, to say, look, this is our country, and we want to shape it in the way we think it is the best. Now, I have had Mar, and of course yourself and Coach as well. I mean, most of it I've been going on and off. But Musa, I think sometimes I feel that's a point where I'm missing. Um, and I get Mar's argument, and in one sense, a very logical argument, and one can even say a very reasonable argument. But sometimes I feel it also ignores the surrounding, the broader environment. And, so historical, and as he says about politics, politicians, our experiences, not just from 2017, but from 1994, but since independence. And one can connect it to the wider world situation, so that when we get to this point, one needs to ask a lot of questions. And so, in a sense, therefore, I see sometimes a bit of, naivety, fear, that if you don't have this constitution, yeah, we're going to deal with 1997, or to believe in the goodwill, sort of, or in the processes, that these processes would deliver to our expectation. So I have a lot of thoughts, because I sometimes, and Ma will be surprised to know this, but I have used him as a yardstick sometimes of my own views. And I say maybe Mar is right, because I have no doubts in his genuineness and his legitimacy and his intentions, really. And so I said, okay, maybe I'll use Mar as a yardstick. And yeah, so I understand all the points he says. And in fact, a few days before the vote, in fact, I had thought, okay, maybe I should just also agree that they should take this to the next stage. Because his organization is a formidable job, really, to produce a very good position paper. NHRC did a good job to produce a position paper. And Tango also did a good job to produce a position paper. So I said to myself, if all these papers are put together and sent to the committee with this draft, and they consider it, you would have something better than 2020 draft, you know. But on the other hand, too, I get wary about that, because I look at practice. How long does it take for bills to get to the committee stage and come out? For example, I mean, we've seen the elections bill; it is still there 5 years later. Anti-corruption bill, same thing, and so on. But also not just the length of time they spend there, but the outcome, so that Mar knows, for example, the Anti-Corruption Commission, Act, they have removed some provisions that are very critical, very fundamental. When the criminal offences bill came in 2019, that was the parental insult. Some of us, we cried out, and the former Justice Minister, Tambedu, withdrew the bill, all right? And I have submitted, practically no bill is sent to the parliament that I have not written my own position paper, personal paper, and share with parliamentarians. And I shared with the parliament, the committee at the time on the criminal offences bill. And after all, what came out, all right, is what we saw, what came out. Parental insult was back in, and some of the provisions are giving false information to public officers. And we cried out should not be there. All right, the elections bill is ongoing right now. But what did we see? Mar has submitted a position paper on it. And one of the things he had argued for, we had argued for, was diaspora voting. Only for us to see the committee remove clause 14. And now we saw even something that they have decried. In 2017, one of the first amendments they did in 2017 in the Elections Act was to reduce the nomination fees. But last week we just saw they put it back in.
Yeah.
So it tells me, therefore, if we send this constitution draft, these borough papers, to the committee, will it take 3 months, 1 month, 1 year, 5 years to be there? We don't have that time. Number two, we can send them all our position papers, but at the end of the day, are they going to come out with the kind of draft that we want for the country? All right. And the evidence so far, from evidence, the practice is that it will take a lot of time, and a lot of the things we would want it to be there based on our position, but will not be there. So, considering this, then to my main point, Musa, my opposition started with the 2020 and about the process, not just the content, first and foremost, the process. And I think Musa, Gambians need to be aware of this, that we should care about ethics and legality. All right. What happened in 2020 was act of corruption. And Marr is an anti-corruption advocate, and you are an anti-corruption advocate. You are lamenting about your issue with NAWEC right now. So we should very much care about the ethical foundations, all right, so that we make sure we do not, particularly in building the foundations of this country, to ensure that it is founded on sound ethical principles. So we came to 2017 on the promise of no self-perpetuation in power.
Absolutely.
It was in Barrow's manifesto, 2016, in the coalition MOU, in the inauguration of the CRC at State House. Barrow repeated this thing. All right. Barrow came on the agenda of 3 years. So that evidently and naturally, if we have to have a new constitution in 2017, there should be no doubt in any Gambian's mind that the start of that term limit should start in 2017. I mean, that should not be a conversation. So that we get the draft 2020, and what people are saying is so-called retroactive clause. As if Barrow has a birthright to the presidency. When in fact that clause did not take away Barrow's mandate, because his mandate was to enjoy the presidency from 2017 to 2021. That was never taken by the 2020 draft. Barrow had no mandate for 2021 to 2026 at that time because he wasn't elected for it. So that wasn't a right he has. He had no right to 2026 to 2031 because he's not elected for that. So if we say the time limit should start in 2021 and you are serving as president from 2021 to the present, how can you lay claim to 2026? How can you say, no, this first time will not count as if you have a birthright to 2021 to 2026? And I mean, on what basis? So how we could entertain such argument makes us forget that we have a nation to build. So for me, 2020, and Marr knows, and that is why he tells me you are the cause of the 2020 not to be adopted, because I said, don't touch our constitution. You see, I have had this debate with Marr before, and I've had it with a lot of lawyers, to say in terms of law, the parliament has no authority to write our constitution for the nation. There's no provision in the 2026 draft. I am shocked that the intellectuals of the Gambia, the lawmakers of the Gambia, and a lot of lawyers of the Gambia believe that 1997 Constitution, Section 226 2B, gives them the authority to write a constitution. Musa, from here, take your time to do your research across the world. No national constitution provides a provision, a space for the repeal of the entire constitution and its replacement, because that is a coup d'etat. All right? So that is why I said the process we have taken in 2020, which I had told the Minister of Justice at the time, that this process we have taken will not give us a constitution. Because rightly so, as Marr said, anything that goes into parliament is a political house. It's a partisan house. So that's why when a bill goes there, the Anti-Corruption Act, that's why they remove some things and put some things back. So anything that goes there, you are not expecting it to come back the same. But we all know CRC committee went round the Gambia, met separately with members of the parliament, with members of the cabinet, with members of political parties to get their opinions. Not apart from the fact that they are ordinary Gambians, and there's the parliament submitted a whole position paper to the CRC. In addition constitution, the CRC went to meet them as a group. They went to meet the cabinet as a group. They went to meet political as a group. And political parties submitted their individual, position papers. Musa, if that is the case, and this is the constitution, it is not for the 52 people or 58 people inside that parliament who are our representatives. But this constitution is about you and me, how we live in this country, how this government is to be, countries to be governed, how, everything about our today and tomorrow. On what basis, therefore, on what basis should, when that TRC is ready with that draft, on what basis should we send that draft back to that parliament to go and edit it? Then it is no more the people's paper, because they can remove one word, they can insert one letter, but they can take everything out, erase everything, and write their own. Is another waste of money for the CRC? Then why did we create the CRC? So when you look at it ethically, when you look at it logically, when you look at it politically, legally, the parliament had no right, no authority, no power whatsoever to touch our constitution. This was why in 2017, I said, let us create a constituent assembly. You see, he said the Muslims, Supreme Islamic Council, the Christian Council, and you and me, I'm sure all of us, because all of us would have, and if you give me the 2020 draft, there are things I'll really remove. There are things I will put in there. That goes for every Gambian. But those was why I thought the Ministry of Justice, what they should have done is to create in the act a constituent assembly of 150 Gambians, 100 Gambians, all right, from all the across section of the society, aided by a technical committee. They draft a constitution, give it to this constituent assembly to review and exchange there. If you had done that, the Muslims and the Christians and the persons with disabilities, the women, the youth, I'm sure they will come to a consensus. Because a lot of the, what we call contentious issues, when you analyze them deeply, you realize that a lot of it is either ignorance or even dishonesty. How they explain secularity, for example, how they explain same-sex marriage. It is not as it is in the Constitution. But what we needed was a constituent assembly of Gambians who we give them this, go and sit over there, and they do this thing representative of all of us. When they agree, all right, back and forth with their technical committee in the writing, when they agree, they send it to the president, and the president sends it to IEC. And the IEC sends it to a referendum. We all campaign for it, yes or no. If we say so, in every constitution like the 1996, when it came, the transitional provisions are there. Upon voting of this in a referendum with a yes majority, this constitution is hereby promulgated and the 1996 is hereby repealed. A new dispensation takes place because the constitution creates a new republic. So this has been my point. And I think, Musa, I will tell Mar and our civil society, I've been saying this in our civil society, we are not followers, okay? We are gatekeepers. We are the conscience of society. It is not for us to cooperate or confront. We should provide guidance to lawmakers, to policymakers, but more importantly to the citizens. That look, this is not right. And we should not feel at any time we are unhelpful, we are helpless, or we are, we cannot do this. No. Look, Musa, not long ago, a few months ago, South Koreans, they stood in freezing conditions to deal with a president who passed a state of emergency that they found to be illegal. And so there are people in South Korea who felt he was right. But our citizens, and this is the role of civil society, we have to politically educate our citizens. We have to evaluate the decisions and the actions of our leaders, of our representatives, because it is not everything that they decide, every action they take is in the best interest of the country. And we have to look at this very seriously. And I have made this point that, look, you go back to 1965, the way the 1965 Constitution was done, it was wrong. Okay? The way the 1970 Constitution was done, our people did not have input in it. The way the 1997 Constitution was done, our people did not have input in it. And when we get to 1990, 2020, all right, we should demand a process, all right? We should demand a process that is people-centered. But we started, I mean, if we, without the Constitutional Assembly, the CRC went to draft a constitution. They went to the president on his own to get his opinion. They went to parliamentarians. They went to you people in the diaspora and so on.
Yeah.
Who else is coming here next to come and edit that story, that body form? And people tell us, you know, because Parliament has a right, Parliament is a bill. The Constitution is not a bill. The Constitution is not a bill.
Why they call it
There's
a promulgation?
nowhere in the 1997 Constitution that would have a bill called Constitution promulgation. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. So this is where we are, and I think Marr and myself in the civil society, and you know, activists on steroids, but you know, political parties on steroids or not, we need to come together. All right, we need to come together to demand the salvation of this country, to demand the removal of this country from the clutches of politicians who is very obvious to you and me that they have absolutely, I mean, no interest in the building of a viable Gambia. After 60 years, we should not compromise. And rather, we should demand, and we have the power to demand the political leaders to do what they should do. For me, that is what we need to be talking about. How do we, Marr and me and them, how do we mobilize our citizens to stand up in this country and say, look, Mr. Barrow, do and build us, I mean, make sure, create the process for us to have a constitution. But we're going to be here negotiating the very future, the very destiny of this country, when it is very apparent that the people who are, you know, leading us, they are not ready to lead. They are not ready to give us a new Gambia. So this is where I stand.
I'm going to allow Sariang to come in here before you, and then you can, I'm sure you have a lot of response to some of the things that Madi said. But let me allow my man, Sariang.
So thank you very much, Madi, and you know, Marr and Musa. I listened carefully, and I was jiggling. I mean, Musa, you keep saying, you know, activists on steroid, and this is an emotional reaction. I mean, you had the same reaction. I mean, you could call it whatever it is, right? But I think the fundamental key here, Musa, is not. And I think I saw a lot of commentary, and I was laughing from Suleiman Bouakar Ba and Bernard. They're saying that's illogical, right? So all the things that we're saying, yeah, mainly your argument centers around this 50+1 is an insurance policy. You've been making those arguments.
The term limit.
And the term limit. Why couldn't we put that on the 1997 Constitution and amend it? I mean, we did not. But I think the fundamental key here is let's now mirror this argument just on the two personalities. It's not. They went around the country. They consulted people. People had input on key areas in the Constitution. So bringing it back, I think I will keep getting the fundamental, you know, laying the foundation of where we started it. There was a pitfall. There was mistakes. So this whole thing about people who are going to making these, saying it's going to pass, it's going to fail. We had that before. I can name my good friend, Mr. Mbalo, Sekou Mbalo. On Kerfatu, he was out there saying, oh, this is, you know, it's discriminatory. It's this and this and this. I really don't care much about the retroactive clause, to be honest with you, because I think if it hadn't been in the past, if I had the voice and had the influence, that's not going to be a showstopper for me, because there was not a guarantee that if that passes, Barrow would have, you know, won. But we are in today. I think we need to be very, very careful when we say words here, because think about it. There are people who fought, who died, who demand this. They are not with us no more. But this was their aspiration. So I think I would be very careful not to mirror this to a personality. Everyone can have an input. We can dialogue respectfully. without casting aspersions against people, illogical or whatever you said. I think we need to be very, very careful. Musa, the fundamental key here is you cannot blame. And then you keep saying, oh, the MPs, but the MPs are the representative of the people. They elected them. And then I think there are MPs who said, hey, we had a town hall, we engaged our constituents. Majority of them said reject it because there was no concern. I mean, that was something that they said. You can laugh all you want, but I'm just letting you know. Sometimes I think our own expressions, and I see that even when I was away, you had a complete meltdown about this whole thing about, why. So the one party that was considered was PDOI, they were never consistent. I mean, that's true. They were not. If they would have consistent, they would have made a difference in 2020 when we need that constitution passed. What would they vote? They could have made amendments. They did not. So, but I think we just need to be careful. We need to have a debate, honestly, on why this thing failed. And I think it has. Don't go out there and say, "Oh, this political party didn't want to do." Let's look at the fundamentals here. What went wrong from the beginning? What went wrong? I mean, how can you assure me that at a committee stage, when we let this pass, that we'll get what we want? It's absolutely no guarantee, Musa. If you could tell me. And the most confusing part of this, right after when this debate happened, something that is dear to your heart, which is diaspora voting, they bring it to the floor, they vote it down. So what are we talking about here? What is the fundamental that sways someone or coming, the most reasonable, some are not unreasonable. On some reasonable, your action need to speak louder, right? So this whole thing about it's one party or another, I think we need to square up what went wrong. If we addressed it, and you know that you were part of.
I know what went wrong.
Huh?
Absolutely know what went wrong because all of us were here and witnesses how this whole thing transitioned.
But I didn't say, I'm done. Why are you filibustering me? I'll let you just speak your mind. Haral Musa. Haral mawasuma halat.
Yes.
Haral lulu dafa aye. But I think what I'm kind of flabbergasted is the fact that people are saying, let people have to say. Why didn't you make the same passionate argument to say let the people have the say in 2020?
I did.
No, Musa, I am not saying you didn't say that. And I'm not saying Marr Nyang didn't say that. Okay. I know Mar's position. I know Madi's position. But here these two gentlemen are on our program. Both of them wrote a position paper. Why didn't that position paper being incorporated into their input? Why didn't the Minister of Justice didn't incorporate that into their draft? Why? Why that got shut down? I mean, if they took their input, what Madi said or Mar said, we would have come in a better position or even much better draft than what we had in 2020. But why didn't they do that? Why didn't they do that? They could have took that. So this whole thing, activists on steroids, I think level heads needs to prevail. Okay. We need to come back and have a conversation as people who wants a better Gambia. We cannot underestimate the sacrifices that people pay to get to where we are today. So we need to acknowledge that. Yeah. And the fact that the man went in there and watered down the Constitution to fit his ambition and political unity is a problem. Call it as it is. Call it as it is. And so somehow people need to compromise on that. Every single day, oh, let's come to the table. When are we going to keep going there? We cannot stand a firm position and say enough is enough. But every single time we need to compromise. And we've seen, I will even be encouraged if hadn't been when they had that diaspora voting, they voted to pass it, I would probably be here saying, hey, you know what? Maybe there's signs of encouragement. Let's support this. They did not, Musa. They shut it down. What are we arguing? What moral grounds are we here to argue on this 2024 draft here, Musa? That's what my question is.
Yeah.
So, Zaria.
Okay. I just want to make clarification, and Mari, you can come because I know you have a lot of rebut.
Okay.
You said there was a meltdown. There was no meltdown. I was making a point on my Facebook posting that if there is any political party out there that has been consistent going all the way back to 2020 draft, it's DOI. Because DOI, whatever reservations that they had as far as the 2020 draft, or they'd like clause this or clause that, their position was allow it to go past the second reading to the committee stage, because the lawmakers are actually the ones that are supposed to work in constitution. I mean, that's different from Madi's position. I respect that. But at least, no, that was their position. Whatever reservation that they had, allow the thing to get to the lawmakers. In this same thing, now, DOI was with the United Democratic Party during the 2020 draft debate, allow the thing to go past the second reading to the committee stage. In this particular case, the 2024 draft, their position is the same. Whatever reservations that they have, they're saying allow it to get to the committee stage. Flip-flop all over the place are the other parties. NPP in particular, they flip-flop all over the place. Somehow, 2020 draft, they didn't think it was the right thing for it to pass. United Democratic Party, same thing in the 2024 draft. They flip-flop all over the place saying, we don't want to allow it to get to the second stage. Lolu Moidega. And there is a reason why these parties voted the way they voted. I'm going to get into that. But Mar, go ahead.
Thank you, Musa.
Okay.
So, Uncle Madi, I've just been having this back and forth with Uncle Madi for a very long while. But I told Madi, and I think this is not his position has been valid, and Uncle Madi is someone else that we all have high respect for. Basically, I would say he groomed us with the salutars and John Jai in this space. So I'm happy to be now being a grown-up and then oppose him on certain things. And his integrity is unquestionable. And I think I was privileged enough to have people like him to groom us in the civil society space, and then also get our integrity not to be questionable, irrespective of what people think about it. So I'm glad to be here, Madi, and then say I don't think your self is going to work. He was welcome. So for the constitution to be repealed, there has to be a bill. And Section 226 of the 1997 Constitution is clear on this, especially when it comes to amending any part of the Constitution or as a whole. And it did mention the word bill. So the Constitution is actually a bill. That's why they call it the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia, in bracket, promulgation Bill 2024. It is a bill. And then Section 226 mentioned that this bill has to be gazetted at least twice, with the space being 3 months between the first and the second. And then after the second 10 days, 10 days after the second gazette, it has to be tabled before the National Assembly. And that was the procedure that was followed. And it also did mention that this bill cannot be passed unless and until at the second reading, no less than 3/4 of the National Assembly voted in support of the bill, both in the second and the third reading. So it is a bill. Right, it is a bill. And what you were saying, I think if it was not in the Constitution, that would have been the best way for us to proceed with constitutional reform, so that it would not be subjected to what we have experienced. You have constituency assemblies, you have ordinary people and experts in that constituency assemblies. They receive inputs from the citizens, and then at the end of the day, it will be taken to the IEC, and then the IEC will call for the referendum. But that's not what the Constitution is saying. If you look at the same Constitution, I believe it should be Section 226, Subsection 3, it did mention that after this is passed from the first reading, second, and then that of the third reading, it has to be taken to the office of the President for ascension. If the President fails to assent to that bill, the Speaker should actually take that bill and refer it to the Independent Electoral Commission referendum. That's what the Constitution says. If there is ambiguity, and I'm not sure whether there has been any case law or judgment that has already made a decision on this, maybe us, you and I in civil society can go to the Supreme Court and seek for, interpretation. If they are going to give it its literal meaning as it is in the document, then we have to go by what is in there, except and until the Constitution says that we don't necessarily have to do that. Because I think that the law is clear on that. And I agree with you regarding the anti-corruption bill. And people need to know that this is not the first time we've been working with Parliament on bills. There are so many bills that comes to Parliament. We have immense interest in bills that are before National Assembly. This anti-corruption bill we've worked for over 7 years before, in fact, its preparation for the passage of this anti-corruption bill. I was equally furious, and I think I remember when one of the clauses which actually makes it mandatory for the Anti-Corruption Commission to seek for the Ministry of Justice to approve the prosecution of corruption cases, right? I think that was not right. I remember calling the current minority leader and then telling him to object that, and I was glad the minority leader, which is Al-Ajaz Dabo of the UDP, and he raised that motion in Parliament for Parliament to reconsider that. Unfortunately, Parliament did not reconsider that, right? And the bill was passed as it was amended, and then the certain removal. And I have this conversation with Madi. I was not happy with certain removals of that bill, especially when it comes to what we call illicit enrichment. That whole clause was deleted. However, I told Madi it was a win-win. If those parliamentarians think they were deleting that clause to protect other people, then they were going to fail, because the Anti-Money Laundering Act, the Criminal Code at the time, and now the Criminal Procedure Act of 2025, the Criminal Code to be specific, all of those actually addresses issues of official and unofficial corruption. So they might have deleted that, but we have other legislation that actually supports the criminalization and prosecution of such cases, right? But for me, it's a win-win, because the anti-corruption was established, it is independent, it can actually investigate, and then it has certain powers that it can use at its disposal. Its appointment process are independent, and it is subject to parliamentary approval. So there has to be, unfortunately, in our what we call cultural relativism, in our political relativism, it is not expected, as Madi is saying, that they must do. Morally, that's what they have to do. Ethically, that's what they have to do. But it's not always the case. And us lobbying and working with Parliament, we know interests have to be balanced. And this is what we are also taught in our religion. If this was not the case, then the Muslims will not have control over Mecca. When the Hudaybiyah Treaty was being signed, to many Muslims, it did not make any sense when Prophet Muhammad actually agreed to the offers in that treaty from the Meccans that was preventing any Muslim from Mecca to go to the Muslim community without the permission of their parents, and they have the right to actually take them back to Mecca. But if it is from the Muslim community to the Mecca, if they go back, then they have no right to return back. So these compromises were made. And Mecca, now we know, is a Muslim community. The Medina Charter, when it was being prepared, compromises were made. So we have to be able to build compromises. We have to be able to build consensus. That is naturally human being. I personally cannot have it my way. Madi cannot have it his way. The UDP cannot have it their way. NPP cannot have it their way. We decided to go with this form of government. We decided not to adapt the error-free law, which is the law of God, and adapt the law of man. So the law of man is created by man, and man is ever infallible. So we have to, for us to coexist, that consensus has to be there. That coexistence, for it to exist, we need to be able to agree, to disagree on certain issues. And we can be, one can be angry with President Barrow. And people have all the right to be angry with President Barrow with what is happening in this country. But where do we draw the distinction between an individual and a state? So if you are angry with Barrow, totally fine. But where do you draw the line? This is about nation building. Others say this is to protest for what Barrow has done in the manner in which his government has brought the constitution. I mentioned this times without number that I do not agree with the procedure that the executive has taken in bringing back this 2024 draft constitution. I totally disagree with that, and I don't think that is right. But I am looking at what is the solution. All that we are saying here, Shariam, all that you say, these are all valid points. Now, what is the solution?
Exactly.
You cannot bring the 2020 draft constitution without consensus being built. No matter what we say here, all the good things, the moral and ethical issues, if it gets to parliament, I am not in parliament, we are all not in parliament. We do our advocacy, we put pressure on National Assembly, but when they get to parliament, they vote. Whether those votes reflect what their constituency says or not, sometimes that's up to them and that's up to us for us to make the justification. And for those that are saying their constituencies actually rejected that constitution totally, at least for our experience, certain constituencies that you go with parliamentarian, they bring their own people that are already in support of whatever they say, and from the same political party. And that's the reason why whenever we go into communities, we make it categorically clear how we are going to identify participants. It has to be balanced. We don't want them to influence the audience. So we have to look at things in a bigger picture. Now, what is the solution? Whether the 2020 draft, the 2024 draft, right now, the executive must be celebrating what is happening right now, and that's not looking good. And I don't think I should be celebrating that, or anyone should be celebrating the fact that we aborted a process to repeal the Jammeh laws. We call it, some say draconian law. Draco was a human being, and then he made bad laws where he was. But in our case, it was Jammeh who made bad laws. I would call it Jammeh laws. What is the solution?
Exactly.
To repeal those Jammeh laws? That obviously is promoting self-perpetual rule. That have autocracy tendency. That actually also give executive monopoly, and also overlapping powers between the executive and that of the National Assembly. It is not to our advantage as a country. Today, let's say worst case, let's say, for example, you vote Barrow out in 2026, and you have a government that is not interested in constitutional reform and maintain the 1997 constitution and use all the powers that Barrow might not even be using to his disposal. You have to wait for the next 5 years. Are we going to do a revolution? Maybe Immortal can talk about it. But I'm not the type of advocate. I think the opportunities that are before us, we utilize them to our advantage, and then make laws that will stand the test of time.
Absolutely, Mr. Nyang. I absolutely agree with you. I think we allow emotions to get in the way, and I mean political emotions. Anyone following this process, that's what these things really come down to. Now the question for the then what? Because I remember Madi telling me one time, I don't care if we're here for the next 100 years without a constitution, but we have to put principles first. Madi, what say you after hearing what?
So I think there's sort of simplification, and that's only emotional, and folks like to say we are not emotional. All right, the facts are there. We are not emotional, And it is not like we are discounting negotiation or compromise and all of those issues Mar has highlighted. Honestly, um,
But the action, though, the action not
no,
allowing it to get to a point where
no,
negotiations
no,
can happen. You're
yeah,
saying
but
we're not
Ante
happy.
Musa Michael mu Daniel.
Musa,
No,
because
Michael mu Daniel. Why you
right,
Michael mu Daniel?
because I mean, uh, you know, the means don't justify the end. And we cannot always just say, okay, at the end of the day, we will get this. Because if we condone what happened in 2020 and that emerged in 2024, it's corruption. Is corruption, is hijacking of the destiny of the sovereignty of the future of a people by a few individuals. And we cannot just adjust and thinking that we will build a solid nation tomorrow. Honestly, so there were no emotions, and we need to call it what it is. All right, in 2020, I mean, even if, of course, I have problems with the process and the legality of it, there was no reason for those MPs, 23 MPs, to vote down the 2020 draft, only to come to 2024 and you pass to let it go to committee stage. Why didn't you let it pass in 2020 to go to committee stage? I mean, what's the point?
Hypocrisy.
But you refuse to pass it, and and then we talk about that, and then somebody tells us we are being emotional. How are we emotional? And so, to be emotional, is it bad? I mean, is it a harm? No, we should be emotional. But we are looking at this in a very rational way. I mean, for me, I'm looking at it in a very rational way, in a very serious way, learning from our history and experience, and not just the Gambia and Africa, but around the world. To say a nation that was invaded by foreigners and crafted by them in 1889 in Berlin, to be called the Gambia gaining independence 60 years ago, and we are in the kind of situation that we are in. I think instead, those who that are saying we go along with this are the emotional ones. All right. But if we are going with our heads, because this is the Gambia, this is bigger than Madi. It will outlive Madi and Mar and Musa and Sarian here and Mr. Barrow or Mr. Salah or Mr. Dabo and so on. So when we get to that, and where we are all equals, we should demand legitimate, clear, all right, and legal processes and actions. And we should not be in a hurry, or we think we just can adjust or play with it. No, we cannot play with it because we are not dealing with people who are not aware. And I don't like Musa. Why would I assume he is not aware or he is doing this by mistake? An adult, an educated adult, everything you do is deliberate. It's deliberate. And this is the tragedy we have been in. When 1996 they gave that draft to Jammeh, what did the junta do? They edited it.
Edited.
Yes,
Yes.
and we've lived through that. Okay, so we cannot be failing in our efforts to build a strong foundation for our nation. And for me, this is where we are. So all the things people are saying, and we cannot ignore political parties or individuals. Yes, because at the end of the day, you and me and everyone else, our role has to be recognized. Where we stand is what is going to determine the outcome. So we will have to name names. We have to name groups. Okay. So for me, I mean, I think we are ignoring fundamental issues. All right. We are condoning corruption because corruption is not just financial. Process can be corrupted. Okay, and so on. So by allowing what happens in 2020, especially to 2024, I mean, which we all acknowledge, particularly 2024, because 2020 at least we were all consulted. But 2024 to come and we say, okay, it doesn't matter, let us just go ahead with it
No,
because
no,
we can
no.
correct it at the committee stage, and we have no guarantee that we
Madi.
can correct it in the committee stage. That is serious. And
No,
then, of course,
no.
I mean, I think I'll have this conversation further with Mar on the legality of it. Um, the Constitution, 1997 Constitution, has provided no such provision for what they want to do in 2020 and 2024. And so long as we want to continue with that process, in 2030, in 2035, the same outcome would come. All right? And I don't know, but maybe Myanmar will sit down when you open section 226 and from subsection 1 to subsection 9 and look at it one by one and analyze. All right? But honestly, I think the approach we are taking, it is not just unconstitutional and illegitimate, but it is not going to give us a constitution. And, I don't know how well or better I can emphasize or explain this point, for people to see, but time will tell, honestly.
I just want to revisit this emotion thing that I kept saying, and because let's go back to even 2020, why it was rejected. It was full of emotions. Let's go back to exactly what happened. We had a United Democratic Party had the majority in the National Assembly. Okay, 7 of their candidates, 7 or 6, were basically expelled from the party. In these 7 or 6, full of emotions, they didn't care what was in the Constitution. All they voted at that time was, we're going to suck it to the party that actually expelled us.
No.
I'm just. Did they vote? Did they vote for it to pass the second reading? They did not. The only reason they failed is because of the position that they took. These were the same people holding hands, celebrating.
Yes.
Celebrating. Can you imagine?
They voted based on interest. They did not vote just emotions. They voted based on interest.
Interest, emotions. They were not really
No emotions. No. I don't agree.
Emotional. The whole thing was emotion. Really, Madi.
Okay.
You can characterize it as you want. What interest would it be for them? What was the interest? Because I thought that we all get into this
The
fight.
interest is to maintain Mr. Barrow in power, to perpetuate themselves in power.
And to align themselves with Barrow government. That was the interest.
I am not holding briefs for those folks.
I didn't say that also. Let us speak to the issue, Musa. This is my
let's stick to the issue, not accusations,
for them.
man.
I don't care. Hold brief
Not
for them.
accusations,
But
man.
I will challenge you on what you say. So let us not be condescending, all right? Let us not be diversionary. Hold brief for them if you want. But let us just stick to the issue.
I am not being condescending. All I'm saying is the votes that I have been seeing, it's not like people that are committed that, you know what, we need to put away this dictator constitution. We need to come up with a constitution that speaks for the people. That has not been the approach. The approach has been very emotional.
Because it is not their interest.
And
it's not their interest, and it's not strange.
But this emotion. Anytime people disagree with you, you accuse them of emotion.
You think what Trump is doing in America today is emotion? It's not emotion. That is his interest. That is
emotion for the right reasons, though. I would be.
The right reason can be very subjective.
And your emotion, your categorization of emotion can be subjective as well.
Allow me now. How much was Limawa?
But we got it. You cannot. We got viewers who are interested in the debate. But when you wanted to personalize this debate to emotion, I found it quite fascinating today.
I'm not
today. I found it one thing I'm gonna tell you.
He failed. Let me finish first. All I'm saying is, I do believe that we did not give the process a chance, whether it was the 2020 draft or whether it's the 2024 draft. And I am absolutely convinced emotions and getting, political fights, that's what led to the situation that
the people that the MPs that you are alluding to, they got rewarded by Barrow. So this thing wouldn't fight. Hold on a second. Hold on. Today I found it very fascinating that I align myself with the people that you categorize as activists on steroid because they've been more reasonable and forthcoming. And they stood a more solid moral ground. I want to share that for the record.
We gotta take it to the next level.
I just want to side with Musa that there was an element of emotion Just go through the 2020 debate, September 22nd, 2020, and hear certain parliamentarians, the way they were just debating. So you cannot say there was no emotion.
It was.
In the debate. You look at the 2024.
Same thing.
Look at how they were debating. You cannot say there was no emotion in the way that they were approaching this. You look at outside the parliament and look at the emotions of those that have anger issues or maybe have issues with Barrow.
Just let me, bro, with all due respect, man.
And I've said this. I responded to a comment where one said, this is the time to resist Barrow. And I said, it's not the time to resist, but for nation building. And now look at those that are within political parties, disagree with the position that we took. If it's not emotion driven, why do you have to insult people? Why don't we debate the ideas? So emotions actually is present in these whole issues. We cannot say entirely it was emotional, but there was some element of emotion in this. And I refer you to those debates. Just sit and look at the way certain parliamentarians were debating these issues.
What I realize is sometimes emotions and passionate can be interchangeable. So people get them confused. But if you're passionate about something, you come out swinging. I mean, people, and, for the record, Musa keeps saying the PDO or the other parties were also consistent. I mean, it's up to your own interpretation. So you cannot say Coach Pasambajau and Madi Jorbateh are inconsistent because they said the people's draft needs to come forward.
Listen. Coach Madi Jorbateh.
I'm listening, man. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Let's say Madi Jorbateh, for instance, because my premise of consistency was Madi's position in the 2020 draft. Obviously, Madi supported the idea of allowing it to pass to the second reading. Madi, am I quoting you right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, in this particular case, Madi doesn't allow it to pass to get to the second reading. To me, that's the inconsistency. Comparison to Doy's position. Their position, whatever reservation that they had in the 2020 draft, they're like, you know what? Let's allow the lawmakers to get a stab at it. And then in this particular draft, same position. It hasn't changed. In as much as the draft constitution changed, their position is allow it to get to that stage where it will be debated. We will give and take. That's how constitution is done. Brother Karamba used to call this thing sausage making. Now all of a sudden he's talking something totally different. Sausage making is not pretty.
So Musa, my position at the time, when you say that I supported it to pass to the second stage, was on the basis of don't touch. Okay, I had objected for draft constitution to go to parliament in the first place. Right. But since the 2020 was put there, my position is let the MPs not touch it and just pass it through the process. Click. And go to IEC and we, the people, decide. There we all can campaign, whatever. That failed. When we came back 2024, learning from the lesson 2020 and giving my position in 2020, I'm like, let it not even go to committee. All right. I mean, so I think I in my way, I've been consistent. I've spoken about it emotionally, passionately, rationally, and that is fine. My problem is when you overemphasize this emotional thing, it appears people did not put thought in it. It appears there were not vested interests or, there wasn't deliberate and so on. And I'm saying 2020, even before the draft, before it reaches the parliament, we have seen snippets from the cabinet in the standard newspaper and so on, getting snippets from inside cabinet, refusing the 2020 draft. They rejected it, the cabinet. And so when their allies, then NPP was not created, but they had allies in the parliament, and so they waited. When it came there, they didn't allow for even debate, they killed it. And those are the parties today who are telling us we will vote for it to go to second reading. All right? But for me, this is in our court, as each and every citizen. I think we all need to go back and think very deeply about this. Should this country be determined by a few individuals, all right, regardless of the public interest? Is it that the majority of our people are going to sit down to watch few individuals in positions of power that we put in authority to decide how this country is going to go? A person like me, clearly, I'm not going to allow that because I'm very clear. It is very obvious, and the evidence. I mean, one can give facts across the world. All right, that the building of this country or any country would have to be based on ethics and legality and legitimacy. All right, and we should not allow anyone to turn around to take any back door or any, manner to, confuse us, to push us into something, and we just adjust. No,
Okay.
that is not going to help us. We will always come back to square one, and I think this has been our trend so far, and this is why, bro, a person like me decided that I think I need an organization, all right, that is going to speak to the issues as they are. But I'm not going to appease Musa, and I don't expect Musa to appease me. I'm not going to appease Mar, and I should not expect Mar would appease to me. I want Mar and Musa and Sa to look at the Gambia honestly, genuinely, objectively, as much as they can, whatever objectivity is, like myself, and take a position.
Okay.
But we cannot be here to, give latitudes to people just because they are in power, and so, we think so they can do this.
Okay, Madi, let's get to the next point. And let me just make this clear. When I said the emotion, I wasn't assigning it to you because your positions have always been very methodical. I wasn't assigning to you, but I can guarantee you the examples that I give for some of those parliamentarians and a whole lot of them, and even political parties, some of their votes are more emotionally driven. But anyway, people can agree.
If you're gonna no, hold on. I just want to add something to what I just want to add. No, I wanted to add something to what you just said. If you're gonna take a template from those MPs, what they say and what they represent, go back and watch their videos, the debate in Parliament. I think, for my position, I think that Parliament needs to be dissolved because some of them don't even know what they are there for, and they don't understand the draft constitution.
I agree with you totally. Now,
so I think it's a bad barometer to measure at any length. I'm telling you right now.
We are where we are for both Madi and Mar. We are where we are. Most people are saying we're going to go into the 2026 general elections without a constitution. Most likely we'll be writing this 1997 constitution. Then what? It was rejected. Then what? What are the opportunities? Is there anything that can be done, Brother Madi? Or do we just say, you know what? We write with these 2026 elections, and hopefully after the elections, based on who gets elected, maybe we'll revisit this. Or do you think there could be people are floating this idea? Khalifa Saleh has said this. And talking about Khalifa Saleh, the very constitution, clause 226 that you're making, that it was unconstitutional, totally change it. I've heard him say that also during the 2020 draft. And this was when he was saying that all we need to do is to revisit the 1997 constitution and make amendments. That was his position. Now, where do you think we should go from here, Brother Madi? Looking at where we are.
Well, difficult question, and it will be, I doubt whether we'll ever have consensus, given the political polarization in the country and, how polluted our politics has become. But I think, upfront, what one can say is Mr. Barrow, that may be a needless statement now, but to ask himself what kind of Gambia, what kind of leadership does he want to give? So that, having served now 10 years, he's going to have 10 years. What more do you need? Why don't you go back and listen to people? And, there are clear procedures that could have been taken to do this. Now, whether he will do it, I doubt. I don't think Barrow has any political interest or, commitment really to salvage this country. So that the onus now will be left with political parties and the civil society. Unfortunately, our political parties are so divided and antagonistic that you wonder, whether there will be any form of unity again or common sense, so that they stand up to say, look, for the interest of the Gambia, this is what we need to do. I saw Mr. Salah issue a position paper few, this year or sometime late last year, and I saw it is mentioned there, the idea of constituent assembly. All right. Now, is he going to pick that up? Is they going to pick that up to sell it to the other political parties and see whether they can mobilize, take a common position as political parties and demand and mobilize citizens to demand on this and our international partners? Alternatively, it is for civil society to see what to do so that we have got to this. Will Edward Francis Moore Center and Gambia participate, under the leadership of Marr and Madi with, Tango and all the other states? Are we ready to come together, all right, to craft a roadmap to see what we can do to make the government, to make the political parties come together and ensure that we have a constitution. In one sense, what we face is to build a new constitution. It's not difficult because we had a dictatorship 22 years. We all agreed 1997 has to stop. All right? Why should it be difficult for us to get a constitution? Simply because, people have vested interests that are just inimical to the interests of the country. And unfortunately, both in the civil society and the political parties, all right, we accepted, we adjusted, we condoned the misdirection of the politicians and the technocrats. And until now, we seem to accept, to believe, to allow their misdirection to stand. And I want, particularly in the civil society, people like Marr and myself and the rest of it, to go back and reassess. What the politicians and the technocrats, what they are telling us as the approach that we should take. Because I hear they cite Kenya, for example. But in 2010, when Kenya were building their new constitution, Kenya created a constituent assembly. And Kenya had a parliament at that time. So, and more importantly, it doesn't have to be Kenya or Fiji or South Africa or Laos or any other country. When you look at our circumstances as it is right now, logically, all right, reasonably, if we want to create a new constitution, we have to create a very apolitical approach. All right, that will require, one could say, can we all be honest and objective to the best interest of the Gambia? But essentially, that is what it is. That we create a political situation where, either we create a constituent assembly, all right, to address all the pitfalls and all everything that could come, or we send it to a parliament, knowing that that parliament will abandon all partisan and personal interests and look at the future, the present and future of this country. I think so far we have tried one approach, that is through the parliamentary approach. It is very clear we are not going to get that. The parliament has demonstrated in 2020 and 2024 that they prioritize partisan and individual interests over national interests. So for me right now, the way forward is the civil society, the political parties, the citizens to demand, a non-parliamentary approach. Yes, to demand a non-parliamentary approach. And we stop this idea to think that parliament is absolute. Parliament is, unquestionable or has this, owns the Gambia more or less. Because we elected them because they are the representatives of the people. We are the sovereign. The citizens are the sovereign. The parliamentarians are mere representatives. And what we are dealing with is not some subsidiary law of the Constitution, like the Anti-Corruption Act. No. What we are talking about is the very foundation of this law. That is more than for the president or the parliament to build. That is for you and me as citizens, the sovereign owners of this country to build. And I don't know how much I can express myself for people to see the picture I try to draw. Musa, I think for me that is where we are at.
Quick question. What do you think would be the legal instrument to create this constitutional assembly? How do we go about doing it? Is there a legal instrument that can be utilized, or is the president going to handpick people, or is it going to be, how is it going to be done to come up with this constitutional assembly?
So not in stage, okay? We are in peacetime democratic society, We have all the instruments of the state, okay? And the purpose of the state is to govern our country so that the executive and the legislature are the governors of this country. We need them. So all them, as they created the CRC Act in 2017, create a bill, that CRC Act. In fact, we have suggested that CRC Act, review it and insert new structures and new procedures that is going to divert from the parliament so that the approving authority in that act would be stated as the Constituent Assembly. And that is not strange, it's not unprecedented in the world and from a legal point of view. Because we will always have a state. In 1994, we had an executive. It may not have been elected, all right, but we had an executive as the AFPRC, the ruling council. So you will always need the state, and the state is the executive and the judiciary in this context, all right? So even if we have a revolution here today, we, add an uprising and remove the government today, the state of the Gambia remains, all right? Who are you going to give a legislative role? No, that is a matter we can talk about. But already we have the state intact. There's an executive intact, there's a legislature intact. Let the executive take a bill to the legislature, create a mechanism, all right? And that mechanism should lead us to a new constitution. And I'm saying that mechanism two ways. You can send it to the parliament, as we have attempted to do 2020, 2024. But it is evident that that parliament is incapable of giving us a constitution. Because we see they killed 2020, they killed 2024. So, what is illegal for that executive and legislature to create a bill that would create a constituent assembly? So that when that constituent assembly eventually, that constituent assembly, if it's eventually approved through exchange, through compromises, the discussion of that draft, we send it back to our president. And the president sends to an established authority, the IEC. And the IEC do an election for us.
Okay, Marr, same question, and then Sariang, you can come in. You heard what Madi is saying as a solution. Where we are, we can blame game each other till the cows come home. But looking at our political polarization and the situation that we are in, what is there available, you think, that we can do as a country?
I think we are so polarized, politically divided, and the threshold to achieve constitutional reform is very, very high. The 1997 Constitution literally makes it difficult to kill itself. It is, in fact, even if it passes through the parliament, there was going to be politics in the campaign for or against any constitution. 50% of all the registered voters have to come out and vote for that constitution, and I believe 75% of those have to say yes. It's a very high threshold. We cannot achieve that without our political, big players.
Yeah.
That consensus. So for me, I think it is practically an impossible goal to achieve, given our current political atmosphere, unless we have a progressive and someone else that will have the interest and the will, and obviously maybe the overwhelming support of majority of Gambian to be in office, and then also have majority in parliament to go by what Madi is proposing. In the absence of that, what I think is the solution is what Honorable Halifa Sallah said in 2017, I guess. We go back to the 1997 Constitution and do piecemeal amendments. There are certain amendments I believe they could be done, and it has been done before. I believe is it section 151 of the 1997 Constitution, which talks about the budget. When Honorable Alajimbo was amending it, right? I mean, when he proposed a private member's bill to amend that particular clause of the particular provision of the constitution, it was done. And it extended the time frame given to the parliamentarian to review the budget from 14 days to 30 days, and then also for the Minister of Finance to bring the budget 60 days instead of the 30 days. That was done. There are certain amendments that could be done in the constitution that will not require the executive to bring any bill. So the issue of two-term limit, and we started having this conversation before this constitution was rejected. We knew it was going to be rejected, and we started talking about the plan B with prominent people in this country. I'm not sure whether they will be okay for me to mention their name, but I think I cannot do justice without mentioning their name. Right, the gay souls and the Sose of Aneket. We start as recently as this morning. I was talking to Anti Sose about that, the next steps. Right. So I think we need to go back. What is possible right now, given the reality of our current political atmosphere, to do the piecemeal legislative amendment. The two-term limit could be amended, and I don't think there is any entering clause regarding that, Madi, if I'm not making any mistake.
I thought it's an entering clause, the term limit. It's the 50+1 that can be amended, but the term limit is an entering clause that would need a referendum.
Right. So I think what we could do is do these piecemeal reforms, certain amendments that require referendum, those entering clauses. We see that, and I think I don't know in reality where that is the interest of our political stakeholders to have term limit. We've heard it from all parties that there should be term limit, including the president saying he's a big fan of term limit. But if he is going to stand for 2026 election, then that will defeat the statement that he said a couple of times that he is a big fan of term limit. Now, we have to work towards that, achieve term limit, and then the 50+1. If it's not an entering clause, the parliament, we can start working with parliament and then do those amendments and several other amendments. And I think that is in fact lawmaking. Since overall constitutional reform process has been aborted twice without giving the Gambians the chance, and for me, this is what pains me the most. The people are not given the chance. The ones that are saying that the 2020 is the people's constitution, they are not given the chance to decide whether they want the 2020 constitution or not. The 2024 draft constitution, they are not given the people are not given the opportunity to decide whether they want that constitution or not. Unfortunately, it has all been aborted on political processes. So I think that's what we need to do, and we are going to continue working with the different political stakeholders. And I know we're running out of time, but I just have to say this. People have painted me as anti-UDP or blah, blah, blah. When we started this, the only political party that has taken this seriously and then coming to our own engagement is that of the UDP. And before the constitution was debated, our staff were at different political party bureaus, including that of the UDP, and the only political party that received our staff with their party leader was the UDP. So there is no reason why we should not be grateful for Honorable Usman Dabo. And this bad blood that have been created by people, and I think it's so unfair. I think it's so immature. I think it's evil. And I saw what they have done with Uncle Lamin Mane. Someone else that I have high respect for, and then also Larry Sise. But these folks, these people who are not in fact pillars of the UDP create this bad blood. And I think that is so unfair. Look, if I take a position and you disagree with my position, there is a better way to come to me, to talk to me, so that we can agree. If I disagree with your position, just like with Madi, me and Madi had this tussle every now and then. But I'm more bonded with Madi today than ever before.
Yeah.
So I think that's so unfair. And if this continues, we are not even those piecemeal legislative reform, it will be difficult for us to achieve. And I also wanted to just take this opportunity, not only the UDP, the PDOIS, the APRC, irrespective of the position that they have taken, they receive us, right? And Almami Jiba, I had this conversation with him when we were on the same flight flying back to Gambia. But he took his position, I took my position. But we discussed, we had meals over, at the airport. But I respect the position that they're taking. This is democracy.
Yeah.
This is what we fought for. We don't have to go and point a gun to anybody else because we disagree to each other. That's the beauty of our democracy. So I think the way forward is to do those piecemeal legislation and let's be more responsible in the way we utilize words against each other or create certain image that does not exist. Because Sarian said this, and I was so touched when I was driving over here, right? He was mentioning those that were here that have good intention for this country, and they've now pass on, living in another life. We're all going to pass on. We're all going to go. And it sounded a little bit funny when you were saying people's, that will be walking through the Sirat, going to Jannah. I don't want to be seeing any of those that are insulting me going through the Sirat, and I say, God, no, please get back. He insulted me. No, I want them to pass on to the best place. So I think this was a very personal, right? And thank you for giving this opportunity. I think we don't have time, but I just have to make this clarification. Accusation on me receiving funds. If I'm going to be supported by the government, I think I will empty the coffers of the government because my integrity is not cheap. The government will have to go and then take a lot of money from everywhere to buy my integrity.
Yeah.
So that is really unbelievable, and we cannot also be behind political parties and then call ourselves a journalist or call ourselves civil society. Madi was just training some of our journalists a couple of days ago, and we had a conversation. People that are shielding behind political parties coming up and then calling us hypocrites or what have you, taking a party position. So this is what we do. We've done this several times with the anti-corruption bill. We are doing it for the election bill. We did it for the 2020 draft. We're doing it for 2024. We did it for many budgets. Whenever bills come to parliament, including the procurement bill, this is what we do. We don't just come because of the opportunity to present itself. And for those that are concerned, or should I say, call us out because we have interest because of donor giving us money, well, this is an unfortunate news for you, right? Your government does not support, and I don't wish to receive any donor funds from government. So I rather receive funding, which I will go back and forth with donor, and I say this is what we have to do. And I respect and I appreciate the donor for taking my position, because no donor will come and tell me this is what you have to do. That's the understanding that I've built, this professional understanding. We tell them this is what we want to do, and they give us money, and we do it just that. And today, if Gambia participates where it is today, it's because of its integrity and its impactful work. I become frustrated if I advocate for something else that I cannot achieve. That is personal. And this is my way of, I want results. I want to see impact. So I don't just choose one thing and then leave it.
Absolutely.
Right? Thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it all.
Thank you, Mara. My word of advice is we live in a very strange society, and people tend to label people when they actually have no clue who those individuals are. And it doesn't bother me at all now. I got over that. And my advice to you is, we knew you. I had a lot of respect for you, for both you and Madi, your work. And I think it needs to continue on. It needs to shoulder on. The engagement needs to continue, because I think, there's great things that's going to come out of it. And I think, someone calling you this, when that individual cannot even, doesn't know you, doesn't know what you represent, what your values are, where you came from. It doesn't bother me that at all, man. And that's gonna be my piece of that. Let that not frustrate you. And it comes down to the emotion and passionate. So I took from your closing remarks that you want results. If you started you want to finish. I mean, this is a famous slogan that when we were doing PT in the military, we said we started together and we must finish it together. And if we're running, someone falls back, we have to get that individual, motivate him to the crossing line. I get it. So, but I don't think don't pay attention to people who will distract you. This whole emotionally discharged. But when you know really what you are focused on, it's the betterment of the Gambia. And I think that is very, very important. And I would commend you to continue the work. I mean, this whole thing about the government giving you money, the donors giving you money, maybe those people don't even know what you stand for. So I start on this platform every day. People throw jabs at me every day. I don't care. I'm telling you right now. I will say this on the record. Like a Bernard and the other people, they don't know who I am. I mean, they don't know what I stand for. I've been fighting for Gambia before social media. I wrote about Yajame when he was a dictator. I saw up at protests when it was not favorable. Right? Yeah. The struggle was not sexy. So sitting out here, because I made some pronouncement, making judgment, I'm telling you right now, ignore that, shoulder on, keep working, keep getting at it like a grizzly bear. I think it's very fundamental. The things that you mentioned here today, piecemeal. Maybe the 2020, 2024 failed. We need to do piecemeal. The most contentious, ones that require referendum, maybe we all need to come together. But you guys feel, both you and Madi fits in that food chain. You guys are drivers. Have a conversation. Hey, we need to come back, man, to our senses. Everyone fought for this. We all fought for this. There are people who are not with us today. They were passionate about this thing. So seeing it fail, we all know where the problem lies, definitely. So from the get-go, so I think we just need to transcend beyond our own individual interests and see a bigger picture. And I think if I had a chance to talk to any political leader, be a UDP, MPP, NRP, PDOIS, that's what I'm going to tell them. Look at things in a broader perspective. Yes, you might not want everything that is out there, but look at the bigger picture. Are we better off with a constitution which is more progressive or shutting every avenue for negotiation? I think that is unreasonable, and we need to rise beyond that. With that,
so
I yield the floor to you, Musa Jang.
Madi, listening to Mar and listening to you both, I mean, yes, there is an agreement that there is a need for a new constitution. There is an agreement that there is political polarization. And we all know that. I mean, we live in the Gambia, we understand the political dynamics. Now, there is a possibility that the only option here is to amend the current constitution, this will together, identify places that are amendable, and maybe you two, all the civil society, if they were to come together, I mean, call me political naive, then come up with something, a proposal of some sort, and maybe sit with the Attorney General. Say, okay, how can we present this to the National Assembly? At least, and the 50+1 is one thing that I would like to see happen personally. I hope that something like that, and that is something that can be done. We don't need a referendum to do that. There are other amendments, just like we did to the age limit, just like what we did for a National Assembly member being expelled from a party and having to lose it. That was changed after 2017. So can you basically, civil society coming together, maybe working with the Attorney General, however it can be done, so that a bill can be presented for these amendments to take place. As far as term limit is concerned, I think that's going to take a heavier lift to do. If it's possible, it is possible. Could that be presented and then just take that alone to a referendum, which I think it will pass? Most Gambians will pass a 2-term limit, without the politics of it, because it looks like everybody agrees to that. So is that possible? Can the mechanism can be put in place for something like that? Identify that the things that can be amended through the parliament, and then like the term limit, which is numero uno, that we can all agree upon, and then allow it to go through a referendum. I don't know how that process can work. I mean, or do we even have the time, Madi? Madi. Maybe Madi can't hear me. So Omar, what do you think? Is that doable?
I think so. I think even us civil society have been divided on these issues, and I think it's okay. It's okay. People take their different
So is
positions.
he listening to you, Musa?
Oh, okay.
It just tells me, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you now. We didn't hear you for a minute. Madi, we're not hearing you now. Madi.
You're referring to me. I think my internet gets slow, but I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Madi. Go ahead.
Yeah, I go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, so Musa, I was just saying, listening to you, and a lot of other folks, it just tells me until now, I mean, as a people, I mean, we are yet to have the clarity that we need. You see, our issue is not 50 plus one or time limit, and that even Barrow has agreed to it, and the NPP has agreed to it. Everyone agrees to it. It's in the 2020 draft, it's in the 2021 draft. What we need is recognizing that this country, formerly colonized by the British, and since independence over the past 60 years, remains a very unhealthy republic. A country where corruption, abuse of office, disregard of the law, where state resources are being used for the benefit of those who work in the state, that where there is injustice and deprivation and exclusion, that we want to now create a new society, a new republic, where there is justice, freedom, and equality, and shared prosperity. And I think Gambians need to think deeply about this, and this is what we want. All right. So for that, we should not sit here to appease to anyone, but to realize, not just the Gambia, but in the history of all the nations, you are in the United States. Look at the history of the United States. It did not take people to, appease one another. It took people a hard struggle to get to where we are. And Gambians cannot think that we are going to get the kind of Gambia we want on a silver platter. And we need to be very serious with this matter, Musa, because, I mean, bringing about social and political change is not a straight, smooth path in any society. All right? It doesn't take, appeasing one another. It requires citizens who are very clear, very conscious, very determined, with a very clear objective and fight for it. And Gambia cannot be an exception. And we have to be also aware that in our society, like every other society, the tendency for people in authority to seek to subvert our sovereignty, our power, to transform our country into that, personal fiefdom is a reality. I mean, look at what is happening in America with Trump. Who would have imagined somebody will come and a whole team dismantling a republic that was constructed 200 years ago with formidable institutions and laws and practices.
Mm-hmm.
And anywhere you look, what happened in Senegal, in Ghana, in Nigeria, we are all grappling with the same issue. Okay? We are all grappling with the same issue, changing regime after regime, and then come back to square one. And I think if we as particularly intellectuals, civil society, political parties, people who know, I don't think this is a difficult matter for us to come to an agreement to realize, look, this country has to change. And for me, that is where I am. Honestly, because who is Mr. Barrow at the end of the day? Some guy from Mankamakunda. Do I care about that person from Mankamakunda? That my own destiny, my own future, the security of my children. Who is Musa Jeng from Kaur? Do I care about Musa Jeng? You understand? So we have to get to a point to say, look, we have to build this country. And the things we are dealing with, you know, are not rocket science, are not difficult. I mean, who is going to argue that we should not have time limit? We should not have 50+1. That the president should, his as powers that should be checked. That there should be parliamentary vetting. Who there should be judicial review? Who would argue against that? There should be the fundamental rights and freedoms of government should be guaranteed. That this country, this republic, should be such that everyone, whatever you believe, whatever you are, you should be able to live in peace in this country and let others also live in peace in this country. These are not arguments that are strange, unprecedented, even for the Gambia, not to mention the rest of the world. So why is it so difficult that you and me and Mar and Sariang cannot come to a common ground? That look, what is happening since 2020 is a farce. It's a farce. And we are not going to tolerate that because somebody is a minister of justice says so, somebody is a president says so, somebody is a parliamentarian says so. I mean, who is a parliamentarian after all? Who is that minister after all?
No, but
so I think people have to take ownership of this country and position themselves accordingly. And lastly, to say, Musa, I hear this thing, we take piecemeal approach of the 1997 Constitution. You see, they could have changed 1997 Constitution since 2017, because they changed some provisions there for themselves, all right? But the point is, if you want a proper republic, you will, if you go in the 1997 Constitution one by one provision after one provision, you end up have to create a whole new draft, a whole new constitution, because 1997 is so inadequate. Piecemeal approach is not the solution. In fact, the coalition, they said it in their coalition, they will create a body of jurists. That's what is in the coalition MOU, a body of jurists. And that is what we came to create in 2017, a body of jurists and experts. And they looked at the 1997 Constitution. Let people go and read the CRC Act 2017. They looked at the CRC Act and other constitutions of the world, and knowing what is democracy and governance and everything. And that is how the draft came about. So, for me, the way forward, as I said, our civil society needs to come together with a clear roadmap, and that roadmap should be that the political leadership, create a mechanism that is free from party capture, politician capture, elite capture, so that we have a people-centered, people approach constitution. We are building a republic. We are not building an act. We are building a republic. All right? We are not building an act of parliament. We are building a constitution for the creation of a new republic, the third republic. That cannot be taken lightly. And I guarantee you, if you want to continue with the same approach, well, as I said, time will tell. But for me, this is my position. I reject this, what is happening. I'll continue to speak for it. As Edward Francis Moore Center that I have created and lead, we have made a very clear proposal, which I have shared with each and every parliamentary member to say this is the approach we should take. And I hope the position paper that Halifa Saleh created this year, early this year or last year, where I talked about Constituent Assembly, I challenge him and Doi to take that up and approach each and every political party, each and every CSO to come around that approach so we have a new constitution before the end of 2016.
So, Madi,
2026 rather. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madi. Listening to you, I gotta tell you, I think it will be very difficult for us to find a way out. To be very honest with you. And I was thinking that the whole idea of piecemeal approach, looking at our political reality, is definitely the most realistic way of. But now you're saying that you're saying something totally different. And the terms and in regards to who is Adama Barrow, well, maybe who is Musa Jeng? That's the right question to ask. Adama Barrow happens to be the president, voted by 54%. Given the mandate. That's our reality, whether we like it or not. And and that is why there isn't much that we can do without having to factor him in. The Constitution gives him those powers, and that's the reality that we have to deal with. We have to deal with political parties because they're registered and they represent a good chunk of people that are out there. It's the reality of our political situation. So, Mar, after listening to I mean, you guys say that even CSOs don't agree. I mean, can you really comment on that? Is it possible for CSOs to come together and leverage their position by engaging some of these decision makers?
Well, I think CSOs, we had different positions in 2020. For example, our position was let the 2020 draft constitution pass with amendments, and Madi's position was at the time, do not touch the constitution, right? So you have those that we are also insulting parliamentarians, don't vote against, and we had people like us that we are lobbying. 2024, the same thing. Those that are saying reject the 2024, flush it in the toilet, blah, blah, blah. And then our position remained the same since 2020 passive amendment. So, but it's not also lost to say there are imposters within civil society. There are those that call themselves civil society that are not civil society, and there are those that call themselves journalists and they are not journalists. Yeah. So I think what has to be done is to sanitize our space. Right, we've seen civil society members that run for election on the political party ticket, right? And I think Madi can actually attest to this during the training. And these things we are brought. Some of these things I don't know. They were brought to us, right? During last week, Madi was conducting training for us, for journalists that we invited. So some of the things we know, some of them we don't know. So I think what we have to do now, and I think Tango being the umbrella body, the position was the same in 2020, and they also took the same position in 2024. So I think what we have to do, just like we did in 2023, and I think a couple of years ago, I think Madi was there. We went and then looked at the issues that we need to address in the constitution before the draft 2024 came, and address those. I think now we also need to go back to the drawing board, right, and look at existing literature, right? We can review and look at the document as well, the 1997 Constitution, which is the baseline here, the benchmark, for us to look at certain clauses and start working on amending them one after the other. I think that is the only possible and realistic approach that we need to take as a country, because even this constituency assembly, it will be difficult, right? People have political affiliation. Exactly. Even if you're going to bring someone else who perceived to be neutral, in the process hard, they might be affiliated with a particular political party, or there might be certain things that they're interested in which goes against the interests of other people. So that will also take a lot of time, a lot of resources, and we're running out of time. Yeah. We're really running out of time. It's been 8 to 10 years since we had this democracy. So nothing wrong with going ahead with the piecemeal amendments.
I agree to that. Brother Marong, I'll give you the last word, and then we're almost 4 o'clock.
Yeah, appreciate you all, your time. I think your insights are very valuable. What I will emphasize is, let no one discourage you. Continue the work that you're doing. I mean, I think your voices are very critical. And I think I would like the CSOs, no matter what their, disagreements are, to be able to hash that out, behind the scene. Because I mean, it's just critical that you guys have one voice to get out there and talk to, the NAMs or the communities that represent the communities, and it's very, very important. So I cannot overemphasize that, and I think the engagement needs to continue. And applaud you, Matt, for talking to folks who are elderly, citizens, and who had a lot of experience, and they came from a very, very respectful reputation. So I think the engagement should continue. I think one fundamental key here is, again, whether you are in the opposition or you're let's look this document as a national document. Yeah. You might be in the opposition today, but your goal will be to be in position in the government. So look at things like that. Sometimes, you just need to kind of have an open mind and work on these issues. And I think that is very, very critical. I think we all come in here listening to different perspectives. One goal that we cannot deny, all of us, and including our viewers, is the Gambian deserve a constitution. Okay, that's going to represent, that's going to build our country. 60 years, we're still struggling on these things, and those are important information that are embedded into this document. So we just cannot just throw it away. So let's work together, compromise, and appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Madi. Thank you, Mar. We'll definitely do
Thank
it
you.
again. And Sari and I will be back. We're right here now. But Sari, our
You're getting you're logging up, because I wanted to make sure that today.
No, I'm not logging off.
Okay, I found it very today is the very. Oh, you're gonna run the ads?
Ads, and then we have our closing. But again, thank you, and thank you, Mar. Appreciate y'all.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Kid Aisha Restaurant. We are located at 1460 Boston Road in the Bronx. We are open 7 days a week from 1 to 12 a.m. We serve Senegambian food and American soul food on Wednesdays and Senegambian food all 7 days. We do dine-in, we do takeout. We serve chebijin, chebiapa. We do mafe, we do plaza, we do every other day. We have yassa ganat with rice, super kanja with white rice and fufu. We serve a lot of delicious foods. For dinner, we do dibi, chicken dibi, penta, whole chicken. We have shawarma, lots of good food. Also, offer catering services for weddings, baby showers, birthday parties, whatever you need. We got it here at Kid Aisha. You can call us at 718-450-8606. And we're also on Uber Eats. And if you've ever been to Kid Aisha, make sure you leave a review. Thank you guys for supporting, and we hope to see some new faces.
Welcome to the Gambia, a country with a rich tradition in tourism and a beacon for investors. Experience a nation committed to progress, a home where nature's beauty is matched by the warmth of its people. A nation that is fast-growing and developing, thriving for togetherness. At the heart of this development is the Global Properties, the Gambia's premier real estate developer. Introducing you to our latest property being developed, the Lakeview, an epitome of luxury and comfort. Whether you are looking for a residence or investment property, Lakeview is the ultimate option. The Gambia is not just a place to live, it's a place to thrive. Welcome home.
According to the World Health Organization, WHO, as estimated 7 million people die from air pollution globally each year. This includes both outdoor and indoor air pollution. Most of these deaths, 4.2 million, are caused by outdoor air pollution, such as from vehicle emissions, industrial activities, and wildfires. Indoor air pollution, such as from burning wood or cooking fuel, is responsible for an additional 2.8 million deaths. Air pollution is considered one of the leading environmental risk factors for premature death. It is associated with a wide range of health problems, including respiratory diseases, heart disease, stroke, and cancer. Each breath you take, there is something in it. The question is, what damage is that going to do to your health? One of the biggest misconceptions about air pollution is that it comes from one source, or it has the same health impact that is not so. Air pollution comes from many sources, and many sources change over time. For example, if you are standing by the road, ride particles coming from tire wears, brick wears, and there are particles traveling in the air that travel in far distances. An estimated 1,000 people die each year in Washington state due to outdoor air pollution. Air pollution is a serious problem in Washington state. In a new report from Washington Department of Ecology, researchers investigated health data for 16 overburdened areas of Washington and found people in these communities face a higher death rate from air pollution than the state average. The report also shows higher rates of chronic respiratory and cardiovascular conditions across the 16 areas, where ecology has identified vulnerable populations that face high levels of air pollution in addition to social, economic, and environmental inequities. People think air pollution affects the lungs, but perhaps what they did not realize, it affects every part of the body. The advertisement is funded by Ecology with funding from Washington's Climate Commitment Act. The CCA supports Washington's climate action efforts by putting cap and invest dollars to work reducing climate pollution. By putting cap and invest dollars to work reducing climate pollution, creating jobs, and improving public health in collaboration with new...
Brother Marong,
Yes, Faramos.
it was interesting conversation, definitely. I mean, hearing
Yeah,
from
but
Madi.
today I found myself aligning with the perspective of, your so-called categorization of activists on steroid.
I know. I tease them though. I mean, I always say that their heart is in the right way. Their heart is always in the right
Yeah,
way.
definitely. Coach actually did very, very well, and his analysis were very solid today,
The guy was here for 2 seconds.
Huh?
Vintage coach hasn't said anything we haven't heard before.
No, but give credit where it's due. He's
That's all. So, there's this. I just saw this from Kirfani. Very interesting. I have to mention United Democratic Party. They have officially set the timeline for selecting its next flag bearer, a crucial step as the party prepares for the upcoming national engagement. Reliable sources have confirmed to Kirfati media. In an executive committee meeting held earlier today, the party announced that application for the coveted position will open on July 15, close 31st July 2025. I'm like, whoa, that is breaking news. I don't know what that means.
What? I got distracted, but yeah, it was the application for party flag bearership, right?
For flag bearership. But Musa, what do you mean? What do you mean? That's what they do every elections.
No, I'm
that's what they do every elections. But I can tell you this though.
No,
I can tell you this though.
Just saying, the time because 15th July close.
No, but can I speculate something?
No.
Can I speculate something?
33 minutes ago, and I just saw it.
Yeah, no, I also saw it on Kirfatu, and I think the one thing I can tell you though, the number of applicants will decide on who if Usainu's application is in there, you're not getting a lot of applications. But if Mr. Dabo say, you know what, let me take a rest, I think you'll have 50,000 people applying for it. But I think it's healthy. At least they want to start on time. No?
I understand that. But what is today?
So it's 2 days from today.
2 days from today, the decision was made. I invited.
Where is that noise coming from? Is it?
I don't know.
No, there is somebody else on though.
Yeah, there is somebody else.
I think it's Madi.
You want to mute that, Moose?
So, no, what I'm saying is, you said they've always done this, and yes, they have. But 2 days from today, an executive meeting was held, and they're saying from July 15th to July 31st. I mean, we're talking about a span of what? 2 weeks?
Yeah, maybe that's just submit your application, and then what process follows later. We'll wait for a press release. Maybe a press release will come and tell us in detail what the timeline is going to be.
I'm not passing my man. I thought maybe there is a mistake. Maybe it's 2026.
That's what I thought too. I had to read that again too when I saw it.
But 2025? I mean, in the next 2 weeks, what changed all of a sudden? They haven't even. I thought they do that when they hold the Congress, announce maybe the first quarter.
No. In fact, there was somebody I heard talking about the UDP and how their selection process when I interview him. He's a member of the UDP, but Maneki is misrepresenting the facts. Congress does not select the UDP flag bearer. It is selected by a committee. There is a committee that they establish. That committee select the flag bearer. It's not done through Congress. Congress elects people into positions. the flag bearership, they have their selection committee, and I think it has a lot of people in from various constituencies. You have districts and all these things who form part of this committee, and they select the candidate. But hey,
Look at the second paragraph. It says the party leadership has indicated that the final selection of the UDP flag bearer will take place in November.
yes,
Of the party leadership anticipated nation tour. Now, is it November of 2025?
yes. Maybe they want to do it heading into, if they select it.
You are strategic, allowing the selected candidate to join the tour and engage with supporters across the country.
Yeah, because this is what I predict. This is what I predict they are trying to do.
This is big deal.
This is what I predict they're trying to do. For the next 16 days,
yes,
applications will go in.
Yes.
November, the selection committee would select a candidate.
Right.
The candidate will be announced. They will do their tour, confirm their tour. They will have their congress, Yagoro Salomani, where they will present the agenda. It can be interesting.
You know what? I really do like that, because I'm one of the people that believe, man, you should have a candidate ready a year before, so that but when you're buying 2-3 months, then you have a flag bearer, and then you have this, then you have that, the politics of it. I don't think it's helpful. I think having a candidate now, and then you go out there and sell that candidate, and then that would create also stability within this whole thing. Who's going to be the candidate? Among the conditions and whatever. But interesting though.
Faramos, he said that's interesting.
Sorry, sometimes, baby, nagmade, come the boys today, but nagmade tas.
No. My opinion is I encourage everyone who wants to be a flag bearer to apply on it. That's democracy, Musa. Because even if Mr. Dabo wants to run, why couldn't other people run too? They can run. They can put their head and let the process play out itself. I think that's what democracy is all about. If we sit here for hours talking about the Constitution, everything else, I think this should play out. I think right now, Musa, that's where elections are won or lost. It's just through the process. It needs to be transparent, and it needs to encompasses all the democratic wickets, and that's what you're seeing her playing out. So, and I think I encourage everyone, a bona fide member who meets the credentials. Absolutely, I think it's a process. So I think it just needs to play out itself. Definitely.
So, do you mean the timing doesn't? The timing?
What timing? I'm not concerned about the timing. I'm concerned about the process.
Not concerned, but do you read anything into the timing in terms of?
Say it again.
Do you read anything into the timing?
I don't read any. I'm an outsider, man. I don't have any information. I am not privy to any information, and I'm being very honest. I don't.
You have information.
The timing and all that is insignificant to me. I think the process itself, saying that the selection is going to happen in November, and I hope the selection also, encompasses transparency, and people just vote who they want to lead the party in 2026. And I think that's what it is. Because if you right now, Musa, the process, it's where the election is won or lost, right? The Gambian folks who are going to have the opportunity to vote. I hear all this criticism about.
Can you say what you said? What did you just say?
Hold on a second, Musa.
What? What happened?
Yeah, go ahead, Musa.
No, my question. Why? Somebody? Are you talking to somebody?
No, go ahead.
No, Madi, you said something like the selection. That's where the election is going to be. It's going to be won or lost. Is that what you said? What do you mean by that?
Say it again. Hold on. There's a hold on. Give me a second.
Sorry.
I didn't hear your question. Say it again.
When you were saying, you said something like, I guess you were talking about the importance of the selection process. That's where it's going to be won or lost, something like that. Is that
No. I didn't say that. I said the
that?
process of, how everything is rolled out, the application process, the selection process, and the transparency of the overall process. That's where elections won because people are watching, definitely. I mean, if you could, we got a lot of rancor the past couple of months. I mean, the fact that they are able to call an order and put a process in place that shows that definitely they're capable of taking care of their own issues. And if this fasters and continue, I think that's not good for the party. But I think right now everyone put their hand in who had the ambition to run, and let the process play out itself. So I think that's what I'm trying to say. But if you don't, then people start being, even folks that might be on the sideline, because
Right.
we've seen a lot of folks who have expressed concern when this whole thing was going on, and that shows that hey, you guys need to put the house in order, because I think you have a good shot of the presidency, so you got to take care of your own problems. And I think this is a very, very encouraging step, and it's a step in the right direction, and I think it's very assuring. That's what I'm saying.
Let me say
So,
this, and I'm sure. Go ahead, Pastor.
no, all I'm saying, Moine, now, all those who want their candidates or whatever, this is your time. This whole notion of sitting here on Facebook worrying about Kana Bugarona, Kubugutarona, who is going to undermine anybody, your opportunity is now. So if you really want to run, do not look into anybody's eyes. They announce a process according to this report, submit your name, and let the selection committee select a candidate. But what I also want to say, I hope too, everybody, I'm not a member of the UDP, but everybody within the UDP would also respect the process. If you subject yourself to the process, and they select Musajeng, and I know you don't stand Musajeng, you cannot stand Musajeng, but believes in the values of the party, you are obligated to respect the process and support that candidate. But if you want to go there and then your candidate doesn't win, you go somewhere else, you were never interested in what the party stood for. You were in there for an individual. But you know what? Good luck to the UDP. And you know what I'm asking all the disgruntled UDPs, come to Doi and let's make it work.
Let me say this. I have always said here for the past, since post 2021, that the only realistic chance of bringing change to the Gambia in 2026, and I still maintain that, I don't think it can be done without using the UDP vehicle. Sometimes people talk about there is a third rail, talk about an emerging superstar. Knowing our Gambian politics, I don't think it's going to work. Now, after saying that, United Democratic Party having a process, if that process it's inspiring and the Gambian people see that there was a process and a candidate is chosen and everybody supports that candidate, I think it will earn them that this is not only a new UDP, but a new way of doing business. And I think that will be helpful for their candidate and their campaign as well. But if the process is shrouded with business as usual, I think it may not be helpful to their candidate. But that's just me. But what the hell do I know? But again, like Pastor Samba, you said, and Sariang, again, I'm really, the timing for me, it's like, okay, they say, you guys are saying that's how they always do it. Maybe I just wasn't expecting that, the timing will be too soon. Within the next 2-3 weeks, I know opening applications are invited for people. Is that the way it was done in the past? Maybe. But it is encouraging, I have to say. And as far as I know, not knowing the details, strategically, I think it's a good move for the party. Definitely.
You know what, Musa?
I wish them
all the other times, except for 2016, the UDP had always had a shoe-in candidate. Everybody knew who the candidate was going to be. This time around, We've heard all the rumblings. There are so many people sitting on their application letters, waiting for what to do.
All
Huh?
the other times, it was just for sure. It was anointment. When you the digger.
They had a sworn candidate. Everybody knew that it was Mr.
Gonna
Dabo.
be the same process of anointment, or is it going to be a serious?
This is what I want to say, Musa. They've announced a process. Sibopa.
Yes.
They have a selection committee.
Yes.
That selection committee would, I expect, act within the established rules,
right,
to select whoever the candidate is. If people choose not to put their application in, the UDP cannot be blamed for that. Mr. Dabo cannot be blamed for that. So if you are sure of your candidacy, no, never Nakamusa. We can all sit here. No, we can have it easy and say, oh, Mr. Dabo, so Numoko challenge. Then don't say anything. If you believe in the process, Siwapa, believe that you are ambitious enough, then you have something better to offer than Mr. Dabo, put in your candidacy. But don't sit home with your candidacy. They select Mr. Dabo because maybe he was the only one who applied, and then oh, it was a coronation. No, it was not a coronation. He was the candidate who applied. So anybody who feels that you want to run, have what it takes. Don't sit here waiting until the 11th hour and come here talking about no, Hamonani should Mr. Dabo run it, compete. So what? Mr. Dabo is just one member of the party. He is the most powerful person in that party. But if you believe in it, stand for it.
Coach, don't you think? I mean, you talked about the anointment in the past. The process remained. The process has always been the process. Like we all said, they will open it up and candidates will throw in the hat. The one that happened last year, the people that were actually putting their hat in the ring, nobody knew them. So most people thought that it was nothing but just it is what it is. Now, we're saying, come 2026, like you're saying, if nobody puts in their candidature, whether they grumble or they complain, and it's only Mr. Dabo that put in his candidature, I personally do believe then the process will be watered down, fairly or unfairly. It would be seen that way. And I'm talking about politically speaking now. In as much as there is a process, but the process has to be seen as credible. And the only way that it can be seen as credible is the competing forces to go in there. They have a selection committee selling their candidacy. And if Mr. Dabo comes out to be the candidate, then they can convince the Gambian people, you know what? We had a process. And it was not just a facade of some sort. And I think that will be helpful to his candidacy and to the party as a whole. The process has to be seen as really, not just, for sure, like in the past.
I think we all, if we speak about democracy and respecting the rights of people, I don't think we should not be drawing any conclusion. They announce it. Let's wait for aspirants, and I think I encourage anyone, as I said, to apply on it, regardless whether Mr. Dabo wants to run or not. People need to run for the presidency. So I mean, let respect the process and let it play out. And I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna draw any conclusions. I'm gonna wait and see the outcome. That's all I have to say.
Soon to go. Musa, there is always a process. Just say you haven't been liking the outcome. But that's fine.
Yeah,
it's not your process anyway. It's my process. The same rights you have in that process, Sundu. That's the same right that I have.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, guys, it was a good one. We're gonna come back, inshallah, next Sunday.
Inshallah, man.
And we will have it. Thank you to all our viewers. And again, if you have we're going to be talking about corruption every Sunday.
Yep.
If you have individual experiences, text us the information, and we may even send you the link to come and talk about this. And Free People by the People is committed to really talk about corruption. And I mean, because most of us, for convenience sake, sometimes we go to Gambia, like you get Dakar, where they call it again, at Barra, and you cross. And the convenient thing to do is to bribe somebody so that you don't have to wait. All of that. We need to talk about corruption as it is.
All right, Father Mos. It's time for me to sign off now. Thank you very much.
Brother Maro.